Warrior Lore. Chapter 736. However, it added a sense of sturdiness. But at this moment, Zhou Tianyang's face was still pale. First head, who do you think is the person who helped us this time? Why did he save us? A burly man in a neat outfit asked Zhou Tianyang, looking rather puzzled. I don't know either. Maybe we were lucky. This time, we were protected by a noble, so there was an expert helping us. Zhou Tianyang said softly. He had a feeling of déjà vu towards the mysterious person who helped them. He also thought of a figure in his mind, but he felt that it was somewhat impossible. Rumble. Suddenly, the huge waves in the water intensified. In the distance, huge waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas surged over, causing the giant ship to sway. What's going on? Did those demonic beasts catch up? Some people were surprised, and their eyes were all solemn. Roar. A dragon's roar pierced through the waves, bringing a pillar of water to the sky and pouring down in torrents. The waves rolled over, and a series of thunderous sounds came from the bottom of the water. What's going on? On the giant ship, everyone was shocked. They were all guessing what had happened in the water, but no one dared to go down to investigate. Looking at the terrifying sounds in the water, the aura that spread out made everyone tremble. If he got caught in the crossfire, he might lose his life if something went wrong. There are experts fighting fiercely below. Everyone be careful, Zhou Tianyang said. He controlled the giant ship, wanting to avoid the most intense area of impact. Bang bang. The waves rolled over, and the terrifying energy stirred the water. There were domineering golden rays and green and red rays of light coming out from the water. The majestic energy rushed out of the water, and on the surface of the water, it was like a bomb exploding. Whoosh! Huge waves rolled over, and the highest wave was already close to a terrifying height of a few hundred feet. Roar! Suddenly, on the water in front, a huge flood dragon rushed out of the water, and a terrifying aura swept across the sky. The flood dragon's roar reverberated in the water all around, bringing with it a painful howl. Within the 8,000 miles long river of the central province, the waves were rolling like a tsunami. Taking a closer look, one could see that there was a golden figure pressing down on the back of the huge flood dragon. The golden wings on the golden figure's back flapped in a domineering manner. Punch after punch landed on the flood dragon's back. Oh. The flood dragon was in pain. Its huge body rolled over, sometimes leaping out of the water, sometimes diving into the water, but no matter how hard it tried, it could not get rid of the golden figure. Look, that's the profound cloud scarlet flood dragon, the profound flood dragon king. Heavens! That is indeed the terrifying existence of the mysterious WYRM king. It seems like someone is trampling on the mysterious WYRM king. I heard that the mysterious Dragon King recently broke through to the complete Beast King realm. Who is that person? He's actually so strong that he can trample on the mysterious Dragon King. Numerous gazes on the large gray ship looked into the distance. All of them were stunned as they watched all of this in shock. This scene caused everyone to feel deeply shocked. Someone was actually trampling on the black WYRM king. This scene was unbelievable. It seems like déjà vu. On the giant ship, Zhou Tianyang stared at the distant sky and muttered softly. The sight of the commotion in the distant sky gradually became blurry. The mysterious WYRM king's huge body had already disappeared into the distant sky. Only its shocking roars still reverberated in the sky above this region of water. After a long while, this vast region of water finally calmed down a little. Everyone on the giant ship watched the scene that had just happened. They had yet to recover from their shock, as if they were dreaming. As for the mysterious WYRM king and the terrifying golden figure, they had already disappeared into the horizon. Was I dreaming just now? Some people were shocked as they could not believe what they had just seen. The mysterious WYRM king roared as it fled through the 8,000 miles of the central province's long river. Along the way, the mysterious WYRM king had already been beaten up countless times by Du Xiaofu. However, it was only beaten up once each time. On the central province's long river that connected the sky and the water, the mysterious WYRM king had a hard time. It roared and howled along the way, but it could not shake off Du Xiaofu. It could not win in a fight, and it could not even escape underwater. It was forced to run forward. In addition, its body was covered in blood and its scales were cracked. It could be said that the mysterious WYRM king was in a terrible state. The mighty scarlet cloud WYRM king had been trampled into a huge worm. Du Xiaofu did this on purpose. He did not intend to kill the scarlet cloud WYRM king with his full strength. Along the way, Du Xiaofu only rode closely on its huge back, occasionally giving it a few heavy blows. "Human, what do you want?" the mysterious WYRM king roared. As a WYRM, its ranking on the heavenly beast ranking was not low. At this moment, its arrogance had no choice but to wither. "Didn't you have a lot of fun chasing me back then? Now it's my turn." Du Xiaofu stood on the mysterious WYRM king's back with a smile on his face. "You got the dragon saliva. What else do you want? Don't go too far." The mysterious WYRM king roared angrily. "Ouch! How dare you threaten me?" Du Xiaofu heard and immediately punched the mysterious WYRM king's body a few more times. "Roar!" The mysterious WYRM king cried out in pain. WYRM blood spilled everywhere. It had never been in such a sorry state in its life. At this moment, the mysterious WYRM king would never have thought that not long ago, it was still arrogantly chasing this guy. Now, it was being chased like a dog. It was impossible for it to be a match. Finally, the silhouette of a boundless mountain range appeared in front of the boundless water surface that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. A huge harbor appeared. Many buildings surrounded by mountains and water appeared. There were faint figures flashing around. Roar! A terrifying WYRM came from the water, bringing with it raging waves. It instantly crossed the harbor and disappeared into the vast mountains. What was that just now? That looked like a WYRM. Could it be the mysterious WYRM king? In the harbor, many figures trembled. Roar! In the mountains, the mysterious WYRM king roared, shaking the mountains. Countless monsters in the depths of the mountains trembled. Peng descends to the 9 heavens. Suppress. In the sky, Du Xiaofu roared. His hand seals changed, and golden light bloomed around him. The golden rune wings on his back shook violently. Carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged Peng, Du Xiaofu activated the Peng descends to the 9 heavens. It was as if the golden-winged Peng had descended. Rumble. Golden rune light burst forth like fireworks, causing the sky around the mountains to be dazzled. At this moment, the heavily injured mysterious cloud scarlet WYRM king could no longer fight back. Its huge body fell from the sky onto the mountains. The ground shook, and many mountains cracked. Cracks spread on the ground. Golden-winged Peng. The aura of a real golden-winged Peng. Are you a human or a beast? The mysterious WYRM king could not struggle, but its eyes were filled with shock. It could not understand. This strange youth was clearly a human, but the aura from his bloodline made the mysterious WYRM king clearly feel that this kid had the bloodline of a real golden-winged Peng. Du Xiaofu roared, "This is not a problem for you to worry about. I will ask you one last time. Will you become my mount? I have the body of a mysterious cloud scarlet WYRM, the bloodline of a dragon. How can I become your mount?" The mysterious WYRM king resisted. It had the bloodline of a dragon and was unwilling to become a human's mount. "Since that is the case, then I will kill you. I will drink your blood, eat your flesh, peel your skin, and pull out your tendons to refine a practitioner weapon." Du Xiaofu roared and began to suppress with all his strength. The sound waves were like thunder. Shocking golden waves surged and spread out in all directions. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Blood spurted out from the mysterious cloud scarlet WYRM king's body. Its eyes were filled with fear. It could feel Du Xiaofu's true killing intent at this moment. The mysterious WYRM king did not doubt Du Xiaofu's words at all. It felt its hairs stand on end. The mysterious WYRM king had personally experienced it before. That human had drunk its blood and eaten its flesh. He would definitely not die. What a joke. Don't kill me. I will submit. I am willing to submit. I am willing to become your mount. Under the true aura of death, the mysterious WYRM king submitted. It did not want to die yet. It would have been better if you had agreed earlier. You just had to ask for it. The killing intent in Du Xiaofu's eyes gradually withdrew. The golden runes dissipated. He turned his head and looked at the sky above the river. A dozen figures were flying over. In the vast space, numerous mountains rose and fell in a circle, and they were suffused with an ancient aura. Roar! Many ferocious birds and beasts shuttled through the space. Their roars were like thunder, and they emitted a terrifying aura. Any one of these ferocious birds and beasts would be respected by tens of thousands of people outside. They would make billions of creatures tremble. At this moment, these ferocious birds and beasts had been tamed by someone. In the early morning, the morning sun rose like countless dragons, spitting out golden waterfalls. It made the majestic clouds shine. In the green mountains, the mountains were steep. The trees were lush, and the rivers were surging. There were many ancient buildings with exquisite carvings. This vast space was like a small world. No one knew how long it had existed. It was as if it had existed since the beginning of time. This is all counted as yesterday's update. The night before, I stayed up all night. That's why there are 3 updates in the afternoon. I slept until 11 at night. Then, I wrote until 6:30 in the morning. 3 updates in a row. Little you did not slack off on New Year's Day. Other than sleeping, he wrote, the update time is late again. I apologize to everyone, but I still shamelessly ask for flowers to thank my brothers and sisters. Chapter 737. A lone peak stood tall and green. A beautiful figure stood there. She was about 17 or 18 years old. Her green dress fluttered in the wind. Her delicate face revealed an otherworldly beauty. Her ethereal eyes twinkled like stars as she stared at a certain spot in the sky. She seemed to have been in a daze for a long time. Miss Xiaojing. A figure appeared silently behind the girl. It was an old woman in her 70s. The old woman was wearing a plain dress. She looked old, but her steps were vigorous. Under her faint eyebrows, her face was full of wrinkles. It was as if the vicissitudes of life were written on her face. Granny Ming, why are you here? The girl turned her head. Her long black hair flowed down her back. She pursed her lips and smiled. She looked otherworldly. I'm here to see Miss Xiaojing. It seems that your cultivation has improved a lot. The old woman smiled benevolently. Her wrinkled face seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, but her eyes were deep and spirited. She said to the girl, Miss Xiaojing is indeed one of the top talents in the clan. To have such achievements at such a young age is truly rare in the world. The girl smiled coquettishly and said, Granny Ming, I said that you can call me Xiaojing. I'm not used to you calling me Mississippi. The old woman looked at the girl in front of her and smiled kindly. I'm a servant of this family. Miss Xiaojing is the miss of the clan. You can't be disrespectful. Granny Ming, in this family, who dares to treat you as a servant? Everyone in the clan respects Granny Ming. The girl's green dress fluttered. Her eyes were shining. All right, it's time to go back to the secret room. Your health is important. Nothing can happen to you. The old woman looked kindly at the girl. She seemed to have something on her mind. However, she restrained herself and pretended to ignore the girl. She smiled at the girl. Granny Ming, I want to go out for a while. Can I? The girl raised her head and looked at the old woman. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. Hearing that, the old woman didn't say anything. She suppressed the ripples in her heart. Then, she smiled faintly and said to the girl, You know, your body is important. Although you are born with a sovereign body, you can't leave the clan for even half a step. All these years, the clan has been trying their best to find a solution. I heard that they have already found a cure. When your body is fine, no one in the clan will stop you if you want to go out and play. After saying that, the old woman forced a smile. On her kind and wrinkled face, there was an unnoticeable sigh. All right. The girl was silent for a moment. She then nodded and smiled. Her beauty could topple countries. She then looked up at the sky and murmured, Brother, Father, There will be a day when I find you. Wait for me. It won't be long. Granny Ming, then I will return to the secret chamber. Tell my mother that I will visit her in a few days." As soon as she finished speaking, the woman's beautiful figure slowly descended from the top of the mountain. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Looking at the girl's back, the old woman stood quietly on top of the mountain. She didn't say anything for a long time. Her heart was filled with sadness. Then, she murmured softly, "What a pitiful child." After saying that, the old woman suddenly looked up and said, "Come out." Chi. A silhouette appeared. There were some ripples in the air. An old man in his 50s appeared behind the old woman. The old man's temperament was extraordinary. He was very respectful to the old woman and said, "Greetings, Elder Ming. Has the clan made a decision?" The old woman asked softly. On her wrinkled face, there was sadness. "Yes." The old man nodded and said, "The clan has made a decision. If Xiaojing wants to be completely healed, there is only one way. Otherwise, Xiaojing won't be able to hold on for much longer." "Ao Tong doesn't know about that method, right?" The old woman said softly. She seemed to want to say something but stopped. After that, she didn't say anything else. Of course, Ao Tong doesn't know. Xiaojing doesn't know either. This is already the last method, the old man said. The old woman was silent for a while. She turned around slightly. She seemed a little old. She looked at the old man and said, "Why do you have to tell me about this? Hasn't the clan already made a decision?" The old man said respectfully, "Xiaojing was brought up by Elder Ming. Xiaojing even treats Elder Ming like his own grandmother. Therefore, the clan leader hopes that Elder Ming can go with him to ensure that everything goes smoothly." Sigh. The old woman sighed softly. Her gaze fell on the old man and said, "What if that little guy doesn't agree? For Xiaojing, we can't lose him." The old man said. His eyes were filled with determination. The light in his eyes was like stars. His aura spread out and merged with the heaven and earth. This family is pitiful. That father and son are even more pitiful. Sigh. Ao Tong and Xiaojing. If they know about this in the future, how will they live? The old woman's eyes seemed to be a little moist. Her body trembled slightly. The dark forest was still incomparably chaotic. But now, the chaos in the dark forest had formed a certain rule. This rule couldn't be separated from the World Alliance. Without a doubt, the World Alliance now controlled the entire dark forest. And the World Alliance had long been the #1 force in the dark forest. No one could shake it. The Dark City was still extraordinarily lively. However, it was no longer the only center of the dark forest. Because in the dark forest, besides the Dark City, there was also the chaotic Demon City. With the presence of the World Society, the current prosperity of the chaotic Demon City was even greater than that of the original Dark City. Early in the morning, the chaotic Demon City was quiet. The first ray of morning light pierced through the thin fog. The dawn arrived, and the entire chaotic Demon City was enveloped in the gentle morning light. Swoosh, swoosh, in the air. In the chaotic Demon City, a dozen figures flew over. Under the morning light, they all looked extraordinary. Among the dozen of people, a purple-robed young man was in the lead. He carried a broadsword wrapped in purple cloth behind his shoulder. Beside him, a white-robed old man looked around and asked, "Junior brother, is this the World Alliance you mentioned?" "Yes, this is the World Alliance." Du Xiaofu looked at the door of the World Alliance that he hadn't seen for a long time. He felt as though he had returned to his home after a long time. After saying that, he walked towards the World Alliance. "But the atmosphere seems a little different," Du Xiaofu murmured softly. After crossing millions of mountains, from the dark forest to the chaotic Demon City, although the journey seemed normal, when he carefully sensed it, it didn't seem too normal. The entire dark forest population seemed to have increased by a lot, and inside and outside the chaotic Demon City, Du Xiaofu could also feel that there was an extremely large population. At this time, the surrounding streets were already quite lively early in the morning. There was also an invisible tension in the atmosphere. "Who are you?" "The World Alliance is not to be trespassed." As Du Xiaofu walked in, several young disciples of the World Alliance dressed in black came forward to interrogate. It was just that when the disciples of the World Alliance looked at the dozen people in front of them, their bodies trembled for no reason. For some reason, cold sweat broke out on their backs. Little junior brother, are you the president of the World Alliance or not? Why are there disciples who don't recognize you? Yuanli immediately teased Du Xiaofu when he heard the question. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He reckoned that the World Alliance had been developing well recently. So many of them were new disciples. And he had left the World Alliance for so long. So these new disciples naturally didn't recognize him. President, when the disciples of the World Alliance heard Yuanli's words, they were all stunned. They knew that the president was young and was the brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire, but they had never seen him before. They also didn't know where the president had gone. And now, judging from the old man's tone, the purple-robed youth who suddenly appeared before them seemed to be the president of the World Alliance. However, they didn't dare to be certain. They instantly looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Du Xiaofu looked at the dozen young men and asked, "Are any of the Hall Masters and Incense Masters here? Hall Master Hua, Hall Master Chao, and the others aren't here." The leader of the group was taken aback for a moment before replying respectfully. Although he wasn't sure if this extraordinary youth in front of him was the real president, he didn't dare to offend him and was full of respect. Not in the World Alliance. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he asked, "What about consecrated Yao Wang and Elder Ing Wang? Are they here?" Elder Ing Wang isn't here either, but consecrated Yao Wang seems to be here. The young man's eyes trembled. The purple-robed youth in front of him was able to call out the names of the higher-ups of the World Alliance. It was obvious that he was the president. "Why are you all clustered here?" A coquettish voice sounded from within the World Alliance. Following that, two beautiful figures walked out. One of them was a charming woman with a lithe body that seemed to be silently enchanting. The girl beside him looked to be in her early 20s. She walked out with light steps. Her body was lithe and soft, and her long black hair was naturally draped over her waist. Her temperament was otherworldly, and she was as beautiful as a fairy that had walked out of a painting. Even the enchanting and charming girl beside her was suppressed by her beauty. At this moment, the solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, and the others behind Du Xiaofu could not help but take a few more glances at these two beautiful women. Even though they had traveled extensively and met countless people, it was still difficult for them to see such beautiful women. "Greetings, Hall Master Li and Miss Murong." The dozen or so young men from the World Alliance turned around and looked at the two beautiful women. They immediately bowed respectfully and didn't even dare to raise their heads. At this moment, the two women's gazes landed on the purple-robed youth in front of them. The two women's lithe bodies seemed to have been electrocuted, and their curvaceous bodies became even more perfect and alluring. Chapter 738. Looking at the resolute and familiar face, the charming woman's delicate red lips opened a few times in shock. She immediately went forward and bowed. "Greetings, President." "President, it really is the President." The dozen or so World Society disciples saw Hall Master Li bow and their faces turned pale. They quickly bowed. "Greetings, President." This disciple didn't know it was the President. "Please forgive us. Dispense with the formalities." Du Xiaofu waved his purple robe sleeve and smiled slightly, indicating for everyone to dispense with the formalities. Then, he looked at the lithe and tender figure of the woman in front of him. Her curves were wonderful, and she had an ancient temperament. He said, "How has the association been recently?" "The society is fine. Everything is going well." However, something happened outside. The woman had an ancient temperament, like a fairy that had walked out of a painting. It was Murong Yurua. Hearing that, Du Xiaofu was relieved that the World Society would be fine. "President, why did you suddenly come back?" The charming woman stepped forward. Her pink lips were slightly pouting, as if she wanted to attract people to kiss her. She was the current hall master of the Moon Shadow Hall, Li Shui. "I came back to take a look." Du Xiaofu smiled and introduced his third senior brother, Yuan Li, to the two women. "Let me introduce you. This is my third senior brother." "Greetings, senior." Li Shui and Murong Yurua bowed. Their expressions changed as they looked at Yuan Li and the people behind him. That formless aura seemed to have frozen the space, causing the profound energy in their bodies to solidify. Haha, no need to be so polite. I'm not old yet. You can just call me third senior brother you in the future. Yuanli smiled and asked Du Xiaofu, junior brother, which of these two is your wife? Both of them are so beautiful. Compared to Muhan, they aren't much better. Murong Yurua and Li Shui's faces turned red when they heard Yuanli's words. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and scratched the back of his head awkwardly. He said to Wanli, third senior brother, you're joking? None of them are. Then you have to hurry up. Your other senior brothers and sisters haven't married yet. You can't learn from us. You have to make the first move on such a beautiful girl, Yuanli said with a smile, causing Murong Yurua and Li Shui to lower their heads in silence. Their ears were flushed red. A moment later, only Du Xiaofu, Murong Yurua, Li Shui, and a very fat youth were present in the World Society's main hall. This young man was very fat, but he was very good-looking. His fat face was somewhat handsome, and he always had a smile on his face, like a smiling Buddha. He was Ming-like. Du Xiaofu sat at the head of the hall with a solemn expression. When he heard from Ming-like, Murong Yuyu, and Li Shui that Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger hadn't returned, the last trace of hope in his heart dissipated. The Medicine King had been in seclusion for 3 months. 3 months ago, the Medicine King went out and seemed to have obtained a lot of opportunities. He had been in seclusion ever since he returned. As for Yi Piaoling and Changguyu, they had left the Dark Forest 3 months ago to train in the Central Plains. It was said that the General, Ghost Child, Guo Xiaofeng, Black Hawk, and Tang Wu had already left for the Central Plains before Yi Piaoling and Changguyu. However, not long after the Medicine King went into seclusion, the Stone Dragon Empire encountered a huge crisis. The Tianhu Empire, Zhenghong Empire, and Jinshan Empire joined forces and attacked the Stone Dragon Empire at lightning speed. For a time, the Stone Dragon Empire was forced to retreat. The Stone Dragon Empire was no match for the 3 empires. It was said that the Tianhu Empire was stronger than the Stone Dragon Empire, not to mention the Zhenghong Empire and Jinshan Empire. The Stone Dragon Empire couldn't defeat the 3 empires, so they could only seek help from the World Society. The Medicine King and the Eagle King had a discussion. The guild leader is the brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire and has a close relationship with the Stone Dragon Empire. Furthermore, if the Stone Dragon Empire is destroyed, the Dark Forest will be affected. Hence, the World Society and the Celestial Beast Hall sent all of our elites to the battlefield, leaving only the Eagle King to oversee the situation. However, the Mu Clan Fort and the Myriad Cloud Pavilion didn't make any changes. If the Dark Forest is in danger, we won't even be able to resist. Li Shui's mouth was dry from all the talking. She paused for a moment to lick her dry lips and continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. However, the Stone Dragon Empire is still losing rapidly. Dozens of cities have already fallen to the 3 empires. In the end, the Eagle King had no choice but to go and support them. Right now, the World Society doesn't have any experts other than the Medicine King who is in seclusion. Du Xiaofu's expression turned solemn. If he was here, he wouldn't just stand by and watch the Stone Dragon Empire being besieged. After all, he was the brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire and had a good relationship with the Stone Dragon Empire. He also had connections with Cheng Shengnan and the North Vanquishing Monarch. What's the situation now? Du Xiaofu was very worried. The Stone Dragon Empire might not be able to withstand the 3 empires besieging them. The Du House, the head of the 8 houses of the Stone Dragon Empire, was now only in name. The Stone Dragon Empire had already lost a lot of strength. This was probably one of the reasons why the 3 empires had joined forces to besiege the Stone Dragon Empire. The Moon Shadow Hall has been paying attention to the news. We receive the latest news every 3 days. Li Shui narrowed her eyes and said to Du Xiaofu, 3 days ago, we received news that the Tianhu Empire, the Zhenhong Empire, and the Jinshan Empire have already mobilized their kings and 6-star talisman masters. The real battle has begun and the Stone Dragon Empire has suffered heavy losses. We should receive the latest news today, but the situation isn't optimistic. They've really mobilized their kings and 6-star talisman masters. Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious and he frowned. The three empires had truly mobilized their kings and six-star talisman masters. If they joined forces, the Stone Dragon Empire's kings and six-star talisman masters wouldn't be able to resist. The consequences could be imagined. Where is the army fighting right now? After a while, Du Xiaofu asked the three of them. 3 days ago, the army fought near Enlightenment City. It's quite far from Chaos Demon City. Even a martial lord would need 2 days to reach there. If the Stone Dragon Empire can resist the allied forces of the Tianhu Empire and the other empires, they should still be near Enlightenment City. Meng Lightsai's smile was replaced by a solemn expression. He said to Du Xiaofu, but if the Stone Dragon Empire is still defeated, they should be near Enlightenment City. Du Xiaofu raised his head. Golden light flickered in his clear eyes as he said, I'll head to Enlightenment City in 2 hours. Meng Likai and Li Shui weren't surprised by Du Xiaofu's words. Murong Yurua looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I'll go with you. I know the way. Perhaps it'll be faster. Du Xiaofu shook his head and said, There's no one left in Chaos Demon City. The three of you have to guard the city. Just tell me the location. All right. Murong Yurua nodded and didn't say anything else. After a while, Li Shui and Meng Likai left. Du Xiaofu asked Murong Yurua to stay. He roughly told her about the Murong clan in Fertile Field City. Thank you. A rather complicated expression flashed through Murong Yurua's eyes when she heard that. She hesitated for a moment before the corners of her mouth curled up. She said to Du Xiaofu, Be careful after you go to Enlightenment City. Don't try to show off too much. The Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires have many experts. The Stone Dragon Empire isn't the World Assembly. Okay, I'll be careful. Du Xiaofu nodded at Murong Yurua. Murong Yurua raised her eyes and looked at Du Xiaofu. There were faint ripples in her eyes. She said to Du Xiaofu softly, Your elder sister Xiaoman and little Shuang are both here. I hope they are safe and sound. After a while, Du Xiaofu, Yuanli, Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King and others were all in the valley behind the World Assembly. Even the unlucky Ice Python King was among them. After Du Xiaofu chased after the Mysterious Dragon King, Yuanli didn't hold back and captured the Ice Python King, who had been severely injured by the Flame Carp King. The other 4 Martial King realm cultivators were Li Yuanshan, Jin Pingjin, Lu Chuji, and Cui Chengqiu. Other than Li Yuanshan, who was at the mysterious Martial King realm, the other 3 were at the initial Martial King realm. There were 2 6-star talisman masters. The 6-star initial martial talisman master was called Zhuang Pingyang. He majored in array talisman master and minor in weapon talisman master. The 6-star mysterious talisman master was called Kong Qiguang. He majored in medicine talisman master and minor in weapon talisman master. He was quite famous outside. In front of Yuanli, the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King, who were only the size of babies, were thrown onto the rocks of the canyon. Their fierce eyes flickered with fear. I don't have time to ask you, so I'll only ask you once. Submit to me? Or should I directly extract your blood and refine it into essence blood, and refine your muscles, bones, and skin into spirit medicines and talisman weapons? Du Xiaofu looked at the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King who were bound and suppressed. There was indeed no time to waste. Coldness spread through his eyes. The Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King looked at Yuanli, the Mysterious Drake King, the Ice Python King, the Golden Condor King, and the Extinction Sword King. In the end, the Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King looked at Du Xiaofu. Seeing the indescribable coldness in his clear eyes, their expressions were complicated. In the end, they could only nod and say, I am willing to submit. It's the second night watch again. I'll continue to ask for fresh flowers to thank my brothers. Chapter 739. Hearing the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King's words, the coldness in Du Xiaofu's eyes dissipated and a smile appeared on his face. However, this smile couldn't hide the seriousness that was hard to disperse. The Stone Dragon Empire was under siege. Big Sister, Second Brother, Ouyang Shuang, Eagle King, Silver-Winged Demonic Eagle, Blue Flame Red Leopard, and Subduing Tiger Mastiff were all in battle. This made Du Xiaofu worried. He wanted to subdue the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King. Du Xiaofu also wanted to have more help from the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King when the time came. TSK Tisk, Yu Wanli released the seals on the Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King. The runes on the sea-suppressing Stone Turtle and the Demon Flaming Carp King's bodies started to flicker. In the end, they turned into their human forms and bowed respectfully to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu waved his hand to signal the Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King to stand up. He then looked at everyone and said seriously, "We are all on the same side now. There are some things that I don't plan to hide. However, I have to warn you first. If anyone dares to leak anything, don't blame me for being rude." As soon as he finished speaking, a stream of light appeared between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. The misty light spread out, and an ancient aura swept out. Walala, the ancient, desolate space appeared and turned into a spatial door. What kind of treasure is this? Everyone was shocked. Feeling the misty aura, it was definitely not an ordinary treasure. After a while, in the ancient, desolate space, in the misty space, under everyone's shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu took out many healing elixirs and gave them to the Solitary Sword King, Chan Yuxiu, and the others. At this moment, the Solitary Sword King, Mysterious Dragon King, and the others were all injured, and their injuries weren't light. Even Chan Yuxiu and the others hadn't recovered from their injuries yet. After giving the healing elixirs to everyone, Du Xiaofu said seriously, "This is a treasure. There are many benefits in it. It will be beneficial for your cultivation. I will explain it to you all in detail another day. Now, you all should quickly heal your injuries. When the time comes, I Xiaofu Chan Yu Xiu. Yes, everyone nodded. They were very curious about this space, but they didn't ask too much. After instructing everyone, Du Xiaofu and third senior brother, Yu Wanli left the desolate ancient space. "That treasure is extraordinary," Yu Wanli whispered. He could sense that the aura in the desolate ancient space was different. "That's something left behind by my former sect," Du Xiaofu said to his third senior brother, Yu Wanli. "This time, we might have to ask third senior brother for help. Junior brother, you are too polite. We are fellow disciples. There is no need to be so courteous." Yu Wanli smiled. Whoosh whoosh, at noon, when the sun was high in the sky, two figures soared into the sky from the World Assembly in the Chaos Demon City. Their bodies were wrapped in light, and they were like rainbows. After a few flashes, they disappeared into the sky. The guild master has only been back for half a day, and now he's leaving again. On the towering peak of the World Club's back mountain, Li Shui's eyes moved slightly with some ripples. Murong Yurua's bright eyes were half closed as she looked at the figure that had already disappeared into the distance with a few flashes. Murong Yurua turned to look at Li Shui and smiled. "That guy looks ferocious, but in fact, he is full of affection. There are too many people he cares about. He can't be worried." Li Shui retracted her gaze and looked at Murong Yurua. Her delicate red lips slightly parted, and her eyes narrowed. "I hope the president won't encounter any danger." Murong Yurua pursed her lips and smiled. "Don't worry, nothing will happen to him. If I'm not wrong, third senior brother Yu and the people he brought are all very strong. They are even stronger than the Eagle King." The Stone Dragon Empire had been in turmoil recently. Everyone was in a state of panic. Many people began to flee the war and began to rush into the dark forest. Some people even began to cut down trees in the dark forest to build a city to avoid being affected by the flames of war. For the civilians, the flames of war were merciless. They could only hide. 3 months ago, the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire's armies pressed against the Stone Dragon Empire. Countless cities in the Stone Dragon Empire fell. Countless people died. Rivers of blood flowed. The Stone Dragon Empire couldn't do anything by itself. Even if the World Assembly and Celestial Beast Hall helped, they still couldn't resist. Compared to the allied armies of the 3 empires, the World Assembly and Celestial Beast Hall's full support seemed insufficient. When Du Xiaofu stepped into the Stone Dragon Empire's territory, he could feel the solemn atmosphere. Everyone was in a state of panic and uneasiness. Whoosh, whoosh. At dusk, red clouds filled the sky. 2 figures flashed across the boundless sky. The sound of wind breaking resounded, causing spatial ripples to ripple. Then, the two silhouettes quickly disappeared in midair, leaving behind two faintly discernible oppressive auras. The two figures were Du Xiaofu and Yuanli. The two of them hurried towards Enlightenment City. After arriving at the Stone Dragon Empire's territory, the two of them inquired about some news along the way. Sure enough, the Stone Dragon Empire was retreating. 1/3 of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory had fallen into the hands of the Tianhu Empire and the other two empires. It wasn't hard to see that the Tianhu Empire and the other three empires had put in a lot of effort to take away 1/3 of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory in such a short period of time. However, according to Du Xiaofu's information, the World Assembly, Celestial Beast Hall, and many other forces and sects in the Stone Dragon Empire were still resisting the Stone Dragon Empire's army in Enlightenment City. It was said that there were already several Martial King realm battles. There were countless casualties and rivers of blood. The Stone Dragon Empire and many other forces and sects tried their best to resist the Stone Dragon Empire's army, but they barely managed to hold Enlightenment City. There were also rumors that the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire's true experts hadn't arrived yet. The experts were still gathering. It wouldn't be long before the real battle between the experts began. Currently, the elites and experts of the Stone Dragon Empire were all gathered in Enlightenment City. Once the Stone Dragon Empire was defeated again, the Stone Dragon Empire would no longer be able to resist the Tianhu Empire and the other three empires. They would be driven straight into the imperial capital, Dragon City. Du Xiaofu was even more worried when he heard this news. He had to speed up his journey. Enlightenment City was surrounded by mountains on three sides and plains on the other side. Enlightenment City was also the center of many big cities around it. It was one of the biggest cities in the Stone Dragon Empire other than the imperial capital, Dragon City. It had a large population and a large area. Enlightenment City was surrounded by mountains on three sides. It was built against the mountains, and the front of the city was facing the vast plains. It was nighttime. The night shrouded the city walls. The moon shone brightly in the sky, and the surroundings were shrouded by red clouds. The bright moon emitted a red glow, and the air was filled with the aura of blood. The towering city walls were more than 100 feet tall. Under the moonlight, runes were flickering on the towering city walls. Countless figures were flickering around the city walls. The defense was like an iron bucket that couldn't be crossed. There were towers and palaces on top of the city walls. Many figures were standing on top of the central palace. They were bathed in the moonlight and the atmosphere was heavy. The blood moon is in the sky. It's a bad omen. North Vanquishing Prince looked up at the sky. His eyes, which were bright without any turbidity, were full of solemnity at this moment. Grandpa, don't worry. The Stone Dragon Empire is united. We will definitely survive this disaster. Xiefei stood there quietly. On her beautiful face, her eyes were flickering. The night wind blew, and a few strands of her hair casually fluttered around her waist. It felt as if they were blown away by the wind. It's easier said than done. The previous battles of the three empires were just probing. I'm afraid that the next battle will be the real big one. They are purposely luring us here so that they can catch us all in one fell swoop. The plain robe on his skinny body looked like a bamboo pole carrying a cloth bag. North Vanquishing King was so skinny that his chest was sticking to his robe, which vaguely looked like strips of blinds. North Vanquishing Prince had been in the military for his entire life. He could guess the purpose of the other side. The Tianhu Empire wanted to kill all the strong cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire in one fell swoop. They had deliberately attracted all the strong cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire. Come on then, we'll just fight it out. An old man with a resolute face shouted. It was obvious that when he was young, he was handsome and elegant. At this moment, his aura was fluctuating. He was the king of the south of the Stone Dragon Empire, Ouyang Qi. He was once a disciple of Tianwu Academy. Fight to the last breath. I, Zhenghua, will shed my last drop of blood for the empire. An old man with an imposing aura shouted. He was the East Vanquishing King, Zhenghua. He used to be a student of the Tianwu Academy. We, the World Society, will never back down. On the city gate tower, a burly man in short clothes was looking at the night sky in front of him. One of his left eyes was covered with an eye patch, while the other eye was shining brightly in the night sky. It was as sharp as a big knife. The one-eyed man was the Eagle King's Gong Dao. His face was slightly pale. He had been through an unusual battle during the day and had consumed a lot of energy. The world society will fight to the last man. Let's fight it out with them. A young man dressed in a cloud robe stood tall and straight. His black hair was shoulder-length and unbound, giving him an imposing appearance. On his handsome face, his gaze was deep and sharp. He was the vice president of World Society, Du Yunlong. Beside Du Yunlong was a girl who was about the same age as him. She had a graceful figure and long, black hair that was as smooth as a waterfall was loosely tied up. Her eyes were ethereal and her face was pretty. She had an indescribable charm. She was none other than Du family's Du Xiaoman. Behind Eagle King's Gong Dao, Du Yunlong, and Du Xiaoman were the silver-winged demonic condor, azure flame scarlet leopard, subduing tiger mastiff, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu, Bai Qi, and Xiaowenxing. This lineup made people look askance at each other, their expressions changing. Xiao Yu is going to rise this month. So, there will be an update tomorrow. Xiao Yu also asked for fresh flowers to thank his brothers and sisters. Chapter 740. The reputation of the World Society and the Heavenly Beast Hall spread throughout the Stone Dragon Empire's army. If it weren't for the World Society and the Heavenly Beast Hall, the Stone Dragon Empire wouldn't have lasted until now. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Eagle King Gong Dao, Chao Yu, Hua Fankong, and the Heavenly Beast Hall's silver-winged demonic eagle, blue flame red leopard, and subduing tiger mastiff were even more famous. They had killed countless enemies and made the Tianhu Empire's army fearful. On the city tower, beside the south-guarding prince, Ouyang Qi, there was a woman in a tight dress. She had a graceful and seductive figure, slender legs, and a perfect body. In addition to her already beautiful face, the woman was simply captivating. Her eyes were jet black and bright. However, at this moment, her unapproachable temperament seemed to be a little tired. "Sister Xiaoman, is there any news about that guy?" the woman said to the young woman with ethereal eyes who was not far away from her. Swoosh. Hearing the woman's words, many people's gazes shifted, including the north-guarding prince, Xie Fei, and the silver-winged demonic eagle. They all looked at Du Xiaoman. Du Xiaoman shook her head and said, "No news yet. After third brother went to the central region, there hasn't been any news." Hearing that, everyone sighed and felt disappointed. That young man had left behind too many miracles. If that young man was here now, he might be able to make the Tianhu Empire a nightmare. At dawn, the world fell into darkness. Even the blood moon was covered. Rumbled dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky and covered the entire Enlightenment City. The ground and space trembled faintly. "Everyone, get ready. For our empire, we will fight to the death." In the Enlightenment City, there was a loud roar filled with profound chi that reverberated through the square. Huff, huff. Hearing that, auras fluctuated in the darkness and shot up into the sky. In the night, countless pairs of eyes shot out. Walala outside Enlightenment City, on the vast and boundless plain, under the dark clouds, countless figures gradually appeared. The darkness before dawn gradually dissipated, revealing the countless soldiers on the plains. It was a sea of people. Their armors flickered, and their weapons flickered with runes. Their auras were sharp and murderous. Kill all those who resist. Amidst the endless sea of people, earth-shattering sounds of battle rang out from the army of shining armors. His voice was like a clap of thunder, shaking the entire Enlightenment City and causing a rumbling noise to echo out. On the city wall of Enlightenment City, countless gazes were solemn. The Stone Dragon Empire's army looked at the sea of people with solemn expressions. How could they not know that the Stone Dragon Empire couldn't contend against the three empires? They were constantly being suppressed and forced to retreat. A third of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory had fallen into the hands of the three empires. If Enlightenment City fell today, the entire Stone Dragon Empire would no longer have the power to resist. "Everyone, they're here. This battle will depend on us. If we can't resist them, the empire behind us won't be able to resist them." North Vanquishing Prince looked at the dense army in the distance, and a cold aura spread out from his body. Boom! As the North Vanquishing Prince's voice faded away, numerous figures leaped into the sky and hovered in the air in the boundless square. Waves of vast and mighty auras swept through the sky and enveloped the entire area. There were no less than 30 figures in the air. Each of them had the aura of a Martial King Realm expert. Martial King Realm. So many Martial King Realm experts. It seems like the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire have launched an all-out attack. Eagle King Gong Dao looked forward and felt the terrifying aura spreading from the bodies of no less than 30 people. His expression suddenly turned extremely grave. 30 Martial King Realm experts. That was definitely the combined strength of the three empires. On the vast plain, 30 Martial King Realm experts hovered in the air. The one in the lead was a middle-aged man. He was more than 10 feet tall and wore a black robe. His huge body was like a black bear. His chest was bulging and his muscles were bulging. He was filled with explosive power. Looking at the voice coming from the top of Enlightenment City, the bear-like man thundered, "North Vanquishing Prince, your Stone Dragon Empire can't withstand a single blow. If you surrender, you'll still be the king. Why do you have to sacrifice your life for the Cheng family?" Hearing the thunderous shout, North Vanquishing Prince looked at the sky and his cold aura surged. It was as if the world had suddenly entered winter. His voice was filled with profound chi as he said, "Giant Bear King, you're not enough to encroach on my Stone Dragon Empire. My Stone Dragon Empire only has soldiers who die in battle. There will never be nobles who surrender. If that's the case, then don't waste your breath." Hearing North Vanquishing Prince's words, Giant Bear King laughed instead of being angry. He waved his fist that was bigger than a clay pot and laughed dryly. Then, he shouted, "Listen up, the three empires' army. Attack the city. Attack." The thunderous shout resounded in the sky. The three empires' army swarmed toward the top of the city. Waves of terrifying aura burst out, causing the wind and clouds to surge. "Set up the formation," South Vanquishing Prince Ouyang Qiu shouted. Then, countless deep shouts came from the top of the city wall. A terrifying energy surged from the city wall. Runes soared into the sky, causing the world to tremble. A huge energy light screen traversed the plain and blocked the entire Enlightenment City. "It's just a last-ditch struggle. Giant Bear King, attack." In the sky above the plain, beside the Giant Bear King, an old man in his 60s stared at the huge light screen outside Enlightenment City. He said coldly, "Most of their experts should have gathered. After today, there will be no more Stone Dragon Empire. Du Palace has been destroyed. North Vanquishing Prince Xie is said to be seriously injured by the cold poison. There's no one else in the Stone Dragon Empire who can fight. Let's get rid of them as soon as possible." A thin man in his 40s said. Giant Bear King smiled and said, "Hongdao Prince, Yuechen Prince, your Zhenhong Empire and Jinshan Empire's army will attack from the left and right. Our Tianhu Empire's army will attack from the front. Let's break the formation first. Zhenhong Empire's army, attack from the left. Jinshan Empire's army, attack from the right. Tianhu Empire's army, attack from the front." Yuechen Prince, Hongdao Prince, and Giant Bear King waved their hands and shouted, "Attack." As the three shouts rang out, the densely packed army outside Enlightenment City moved in unison, erupting into earth-shattering battle cries. Runes soared into the sky, and their aura exploded. Weapons were unsheathed, and a murderous aura filled the sky. Rumble. The earth trembled and the mountains crumbled. The endless army, which numbered in the hundreds of millions, rushed toward Enlightenment City like a tide. A terrifying murderous aura filled the sky. On the city tower, countless people held their weapons and waited for the battle. North Vanquishing Prince looked serious. He waved his hand and shouted, "Protect the city." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As soon as North Vanquishing Prince finished his words, the runes on the light screen in front of the Enlightenment City started to twist. Then, a large number of rune crossbows were shot out. A terrifying energy spread out. These crossbows were powerful enough to penetrate an ordinary pulse spirit realm cultivator. In an instant, There were many miserable cries from the army of the three empires. A large number of people fell to the ground in an instant. Resist the crossbows and break the rune array. Within the three empires, loud shouts came out. Then, countless martial lord realm cultivators and 5-star spirit talisman masters flew out and formed a circle of talisman characters to resist the arrows and attack the talisman arrays on the city walls. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the runes soared into the sky and the earth trembled. The rumbling energy explosion was earth-shattering and echoed in the sky. In the Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of people looked at the sky with a serious expression. In the entire city, women and children were praying. Children were trembling. Strong young men were holding weapons and waiting on the streets. They looked up and the atmosphere was solemn. The rune array outside the Enlightenment City shook and the runes began to break. The city wall was on the verge of collapse. The north vanquishing prince, the south vanquishing prince, the east vanquishing prince, the Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others all looked at the more than 30 people floating in the sky. They were the ones that they were truly afraid of. There were more than 30 martial kings. In a war like this, only martial king realm cultivators could decide the outcome. The total number of martial king realm cultivators in the Stone Dragon Empire was only around 10 people, but the enemy had 3 times the number. Break the array. On the plain, battle cries resounded. Among the allied forces of the 3 empires, the armies in 3 directions had reached a tacit understanding. Energy ribbons and light pillars wrapped around the runes, and like meteorites, they all fell on the light screen of the runes that traversed Enlightenment City. Bang, bang, bang. The light barrier of the rune array was already on the verge of collapse. It could no longer withstand the attacks of the experts of the 3 armies. Suddenly, it cracked and turned into countless runes that exploded in the sky. The terrifying rune energy was like a beautiful firework. The energy ripples were undulating, containing a destructive energy. Walala, the rune array was broken. The first barrier of the Enlightenment City was destroyed in less than 15 minutes. The winding city wall and the army of the Stone Dragon Empire were exposed to the 3 armies. Kill. The shouts of killing were earth-shattering. The 3 armies rushed out together and their figures spread out in all directions. Roar. Among them, there were many huge demonic beasts that appeared in the sky. Their energy filled the sky, and they fiercely rushed towards the army of the Stone Dragon Empire. Kill. The army of the Stone Dragon Empire shouted and their figures collided with each other. Roar. On the city wall, the pale flame-red leopard roared. Then, a huge wave of demonic beasts rushed out from the army of the Stone Dragon Empire. Chapter 741. Roar. The beast horde roared like an earthquake. The roar shook the heavens and earth. GG. In the sky, ferocious beasts roared as they flapped their wings and circled around like dark clouds. The shockwave swept across like a hurricane. Roar. Within the army of demonic beasts, there was a huge yellow python hovering in the air like a huge dragon. Half of its huge body was still hidden in the clouds high up in the sky. Its whole body was emitting a cold aura that made people's hearts tremble for no reason. A lion stood tall. It was as huge as a mountain, and its aura was shocking. A huge bear stood tall. It was like a huge mountain moving horizontally. The ferocious beasts flapped their wings. Their sharp claws were enough to pierce through mountains. The ferocious beasts on the ground roared. Their fangs were terrifying and their eyes were shining with different colored runes. The ferocious beasts roared again and again. It was like thunder that resounded in all directions. Wherever they passed, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Rumble. The terrifying beast horde surged. It shook people's soul and their aura was terrifying. It was enough to make people's hair stand on end. The Heavenly Beast Hall's beast horde was the most dreaded army in the entire Stone Dragon Empire. Countless armies of the 3 great empires were buried in the mouth of this beast horde. The Heavenly Beast Hall's beast horde was the trump card of the entire Stone Dragon Empire. Rumble. The huge demonic beast army was as large as a courtyard. Their fangs were frightening, and their eyes were emitting various symbols and fierce lights. Various deafening roars and roars were deafening. Bang, bang, bang. The battle was about to start. Within the army, there were people who were sent flying as miserable cries resounded. Kill. Fight. The battle cries filled the sky. Countless bodies exploded in the battle and blood flowed like a river. Rumble. Beams of energy whizzed past. The runes spread and the radiance of the swords and spears soared into the sky. The battle between the two sides became intense as energy ripples spread across the land. In a short time, blood flowed like a river and wails were everywhere. In the sky, Giant Bear King, Moon King, and Hongdao King were watching the battle below with cold eyes. After that, the three of them looked at each other and came to a tacit understanding. The three of them waved their hands behind them. Immediately, nearly 30 auras surged out. The vast auras swept out, causing the world to tremble. Nearly 30 Martial King realm cultivators unleashed their auras. Then, they dove down like meteors into the army of the Stone Dragon Empire with dazzling runes. Rumble. After the 30 figures rushed into the army of the Stone Dragon Empire, many of them exploded under the pressure of the Xin Qi and turned into blood mist. There were countless casualties. The Martial King realm cultivators had already started attacking. Everyone, let's do it. As soon as Lord North vanquishing North's voice faded, his lean body leaped into the air. Horrifying coldness spread out in the air. The Stone Dragon Empire's South Protecting King, Ouyang Qi, is here. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed. The Stone Dragon Empire's East Vanquishing Prince is here. Those who invade our territory will be killed. Two figures wrapped in runes took the lead to rush out. They were none other than the Stone Dragon Empire's King of the South, Ouyang Qi, and King of the East, Zhenghua. Kill. Then, the remaining kings of the Stone Dragon Empire leaped into the air. Their bodies were shrouded in multicolored light and terrifying auras filled the air. They started attacking with all their might. At this moment, the experts of the Stone Dragon Empire rushed towards the kings of the other three empires. Kill. The king of the south, Ouyang Qi, had a resolute look on his face as he quickly attacked. Talisman runes surged out from his hands and swept through the army of the three empires. He then attacked a king of the Tianhu Empire who was rushing over. Those who invade our territory will be paid with blood. The East Vanquishing Prince's imposing figure soared into the sky. His aura suppressed the mountains and rivers. Then, he slammed his palm down. Runes soared into the sky and suppressed the mountains and rivers. A large number of the allied forces were turned into blood mist. Kill. A handsome man rushed out. He was the Lonling Prefecture's palace master, Ouyang Ling. His aura had already reached the initial stage of the Martial King realm. He waved his hand and attacked a king of the other side. Be careful. The Eagle King pointed his gong blade at Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the others beside him. As soon as he finished speaking, his body shot forward, and his claws swept through the air, tearing the allied army into pieces like ghosts. In the end, he was stopped by the enemy's king. Kill. Du Yunlong's 1,000-kill battle blade burst out with runes and rushed out. Rumble. The army was endless. There were talisman masters who set up talisman arrays that covered the sky and the sun. It was terrifying. The terrifying talisman arrays killed a large number of the allied forces in an instant. Miserable screams could be heard. Break the array. Some experts joined forces to break the array and destroy it, causing the talisman masters to suffer a backlash. North Vanquishing Prince, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You're getting old. The Giant Bear King soared into the sky and blocked the North Vanquishing Prince. Then, he launched a series of fierce attacks towards the North Vanquishing Prince. Let's deal with this old man first. The Moon King and Hongdao King moved together and besieged the North Vanquishing Prince. They wanted to kill the North Vanquishing Prince first. This was the soul of the Stone Dragon Empire's army. Gee. Roar. The roar of a beast reverberated through the heavens and earth like thunder. It was accompanied by a terrifying aura that spread across the sky. The silver-winged demonic condor took action and transformed into its huge body. It rushed out like lightning and instantly appeared behind the North Vanquishing Prince and attacked the Moon King. A complete Beast King realm silver-winged demonic condor. Damn it. The Moon King cursed. He unleashed his peak, complete Martial King realm cultivation, but it was difficult to suppress the silver-winged demonic condor. Let's fight to the end. The East vanquishing prince took action and unleashed an aura that could suppress mountains and rivers, blocking the Hongdao King. Roar. The blue flame-red leopard activated its huge body and pounced towards the allied forces. It roared and waved its claws, causing blood to splatter everywhere. It was unstoppable. Kill. The subduing tiger mastiff took action. Its body was majestic and its aura was terrifying. Wherever it passed, the allied forces were blasted apart by the sound waves. The battle between the allied forces caused the heavens and earth to boil. In the midst of the battle, ferocious birds flapped their wings and a storm swept across the sky. The ferocious beasts waved their claws, covering the heavens and earth. Large groups of people were crushed into blood mist. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. Large groups of people were crushed into pieces. The two armies collided and wails of agony could be heard. Blood was dripping and flowing like a river. Large groups of beast souls roared across the sky. The scene was like hell. Evil chi filled the sky, and mournful songs resounded through the 9 heavens. The Stone Dragon Empire army was unable to contend against the allied forces of the 3 empires. In addition, many Martial King realm experts from the 3 empires intervened, and the number of Martial Marquis realm experts multiplied. They began to lose ground. Corpses were everywhere and countless figures fell. Let's fight to the end. Let's fight to the death. The eyes of the Stone Dragon Empire soldiers turned red. Seeing their comrades fall, their bodies trembled with excitement and they roared angrily. Bang, bang, bang. Even so, the Stone Dragon Empire army was unable to contend against them. Large groups of people were blasted apart. Wails of agony and the smell of blood filled the air. The roars of various demonic beasts were deafening. Dozens of Martial King realm experts were fighting above the crowd. The Martial King realm experts of the Stone Dragon Empire, the silver-winged demonic condor, the blue flame-red leopard, and the subduing tiger mastiff were all surrounded and suppressed. The situation became more and more serious. Rumble, the city wall finally collapsed. The winding and towering city wall was blasted apart. Boulders flew everywhere, and countless figures were smashed. Raise Enlightenment City to the ground. The allied forces of the 3 empires shouted. They wanted to raise Enlightenment City to the ground. Run, run. The city wall collapsed. The allied forces of the 3 empires invaded Enlightenment City. Mournful cries and wails resounded through the sky. The courtyards in the city collapsed, and the streets were blasted apart. Countless civilians were engulfed and turned into meat paste. It was a horrible sight. This is a catastrophe. God, please save us. An old man knelt down and prayed sincerely, hoping that the heavens would show mercy. Mother, demonic beasts roared. Blood splattered everywhere. A 7 or 8-year-old girl knelt down and cried. Beside her, her mother was lying in a pool of blood. She was so scared that her body was trembling. Roar. A demonic beast from the 3 empires flew across the sky. It flapped its wings and clawed at the girl with its sharp claws. Chi-Chi. A beautiful woman in tight clothes appeared. Her sexy figure was outlined under the tight clothes. Her eyes were black and bright. Killing intent gushed out from her. She slashed the demonic beast in half with her sword. Little girl, get out of here. The beautiful woman's face was pale. Her delicate body landed beside the little girl and let the little girl leave. TSK, TSK, such a rare girl. I'll capture you first and enjoy you later. A sinister sneer was heard. A skinny old man in black clothes appeared. He was a Martial King realm expert. A palm print landed on the beautiful woman in tight clothes. The woman in tight clothes was engulfed. Blood spurted out from her mouth. She could not resist the attack. Her delicate body was instantly flung away. Schwanger, watch out. A beautiful woman in a red dress dashed out quickly. She had crescent brows and bright eyes. Her gaze was solemn. The sword in her hand flashed and shrouded the old man in black. Although she's old, she's not bad. Could it be that she's a mother and a daughter? Seems like I'm quite lucky. The old man in black sneered. He did not take it seriously and attacked with his claw. The mysterious martial king realm aura burst out. The old man in black destroyed the sword light of the beautiful woman in red dress. He grabbed the long sword in her hand and slapped her shoulder with his palm. Puffed. The shoulder of the beautiful woman in red dress trembled. Blood spurted out from her mouth and her body was instantly flung away. Chapter 742. Mother. The woman stood up and walked to the side of the beautiful woman in the red dress. Her long black hair was messy and her body was stained with blood. She helped the beautiful woman in the red dress up. What a pair of mother and daughter. Be obedient and let me capture you. The black-clothed old man laughed coldly. His eyes were filled with filth. He waved his hand and directly enveloped the mother and daughter. The claw was so sharp that it seemed to have distorted the space. The mother and daughter, who had blood dripping from the corners of their mouths, had despair in their eyes. In front of a martial king, they were simply unable to fight back. Chi. Just as the mother and daughter's eyes were filled with despair, a blurry figure in a purple robe suddenly appeared like a ghost. Golden light exploded. The person shook his arm. It seemed slow, but in reality, it was a similar claw. A domineering aura suddenly swept out. At this moment, the black-clothed old man seemed to have felt something. An inexplicable chill spread out from the depths of his soul. The profound chi in his body inexplicably stopped. Then, before the black-clothed old man could react, a golden claw suddenly landed on his claw. Chi-la! The claw collided and golden light exploded. The black-clothed old man's claw was directly caught by the golden claw. Then, a domineering energy that the black-clothed old man could not resist suddenly poured down. Pacha! The black-clothed old man could even clearly hear that his 5 fingers had broken under the other party's claw. Then, his entire arm was directly crushed by the claw. Die! An indifferent and cold voice came out from the purple-robed figure's mouth. Then, a fist landed on the old man's chest with lightning speed. Bang! A low explosion sounded out. The black-clothed old man's body was directly smashed into a bloody mist. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was irresistible. Even at the moment of his death, the black-clothed old man did not see who had killed him. He only knew that it was a purple-robed figure. The domineering aura made him unable to resist. All of this happened too quickly. The mother and daughter's expressions changed, and they immediately looked towards the purple-robed figure that had suddenly appeared. It was a young man who carried a broad sword that was wrapped in violet cloth on his back. On his resolute and determined face, his fierce gaze had recovered a trace of clarity and profoundness, and golden talisman markings flickered in his eyes. When they saw the purple-robed young man in front of them, the mother and daughter were instantly dumbfounded. Then, their eyes trembled. "Aunt Sean, are you all right?" The purple-robed young man slowly walked to the side of the beautiful woman in the red dress and the young girl in the black dress. Looking at the stunned mother and daughter, he handed the 2 pills in his hand to them. "My child, are you really back?" The beautiful woman in the red dress came back to her senses and caressed the face of the purple-robed young man. Her eyes were trembling and she couldn't believe it. Du Xiaofu smiled, nodded, and said to the beautiful woman in the red dress, "Aunt Sean, we'll talk later. I'll go help first. You take care of yourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's figure had already disappeared from the spot like an afterimage, disappearing from the sight of the 2 women. "It's him. He's here." The beautiful woman in the black dress slowly came back to her senses. Her big eyes rippled, and these ripples were getting more and more intense. In the sky where blood was monstrous and killing was shocking, the wind and clouds surged, and thunder rumbled unceasingly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the distant sky, 17 figures appeared out of thin air and descended on this world. The 17 people stood together, led by an old man in a white robe who looked to be in his 60s. Around his figure, there were traces of imperceptible spatial fluctuations. Beside the old man, there was a burly man in a green robe who looked to be in his 30s. He was handsome, and there was a faint radiance on his forehead. A middle-aged man in a wide golden robe with deep eyes and a high-nosed bridge. A middle-aged man in a gray robe with a slender figure. On his gray robe, there were several lifelike long swords embroidered on it. A man in a red robe with a blazing aura was spreading out. These 17 people were Yuanli, Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Extinction Sword King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Ice Python King, Chan Yuxiu, Song Yi, Zhuang Pingyang, Kang Qiguang, Li Yuanshan, and the others. The Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, and the others were heavily injured. However, in the ancient desolate space, and with the help of Du Xiaofu's medicinal pills, most of them were fine. Those who were seriously injured had mostly recovered. Following the appearance of these people, there was a vast aura that was not hidden. In an instant, it spread out in all directions, causing many powerful people in the battlefield to raise their heads to look. The aura of these 17 people was absolutely terrifying, and it immediately attracted the attention of the King Realm experts from the Stone Dragon Empire and the other 3 empires. Where did these experts come from? They're all martial kings. Giant Bear King, Moon King, Hongdao King, North Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, and the others looked over with trembling eyes. Especially the white-robed old man in the front. The more they looked at his aura, the more terrifying it was. The brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire, Du Xiaofu, is here. Who dares to touch the Stone Dragon Empire? A thunderous roar that contained surging profound chi resounded in all directions like a thunderclap. The sound waves rolled, and it could be heard clearly amidst the thunderous roars. It shook the clouds. At the same time, a purple-robed young man with a wide purple sword on his back suddenly appeared in front of the 17 experts. His entire body was shrouded in golden light. The purple-robed young man was surrounded by a hazy golden halo. His deep eyes flickered with golden light, and an astonishing domineering aura swept out, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped for the entire Stone Dragon Empire army. In an instant, everyone's gazes landed on the purple-robed young man in the sky with astonishment. When the Stone Dragon Empire army that was retreating saw the purple-robed young man in the sky, they were shocked and trembled violently. He's back. The brave God King is back. The brave God King is finally back. The brave God King of our Stone Dragon Empire is back. Loud shouts rang out, causing the Stone Dragon Empire army that was retreating to boil with excitement. The president is back. The hall master is back. That's Senior Du. Countless disciples from the World Society, the demonic beasts from the Sky Beast Hall, and the Tianwu Academy students who were mixed in with them felt their blood boiling. They were so excited that their bodies trembled as they fought with all their might. It's third brother. The president is back. It's him. He actually appeared at this time. Amidst the fierce battle, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Han Xian, He Jun, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu, Bai Qi, and the others were stunned when they saw the purple-robed figure in the sky. Then, they were overjoyed. Greetings, Hall Master. Greetings, President. Amidst the fierce battle, the silver-winged demonic condor, pale flame scarlet leopard, subduing tiger, Chao Yu, and Hua Fankong's shouts resounded through the sky. Mysterious Serpent King, Flame Carp King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and Chan Yuxiu, except for those from the Stone Dragon Empire, kill them all. A cold and domineering voice resounded through the sky. Du Xiaofu scanned the area with his spiritual energy before he looked down and waved his hand. Yes, sir. As Du Xiaofu's hand landed, a terrifying wave of Xian Qi spread across the sky. Every single one of their auras was at the King Realm, causing the color of the sky to change. That's a Beast King Realm expert. It's a Martial King Realm expert. There's also a 6-star Talisman Master. Oh my god, there are so many experts. Where did they come from? When the mysterious Flood Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Zhuang Pingyang, and more than a dozen other auras swept across the sky, whether it was the Tianhu Empire or the Stone Dragon Empire, everyone who felt the terrifying aura couldn't help but gasp. Every single one of those people was a king-level master. What a terrifying lineup. Even the North Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, Eagle King, and Gong Dao were dumbfounded. The 17 or 18 people were at the Martial King Realm, Beast King Realm, and 6-star Talisman Master. Their aura was extraordinary, proving that they weren't ordinary Martial King Realm and Beast King Realm experts. This terrifying lineup was more than all the King Realm experts in the Stone Dragon Empire. It was enough to wipe out the entire empire. Are these the forces he brought back? Xie Fei, Ouyang Shuang, Yuan Shanshan, and the others looked at the powerful figures in the sky and sighed in their hearts. Attack, kill. The mysterious Serpent King had been ravaged miserably not long ago. Although he had obediently surrendered, he was still in a bad mood. As he shouted, his figure suddenly dashed out. Attack, the people of the Stone Dragon Empire. The Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and Chan Yuxiu followed the mysterious Serpent King and charged towards the three empires at the same time. As the King Realm experts crossed the sky, a terrifying aura swept across the sky, causing the sky and earth to tremble. As the mysterious Serpent King, Golden Condor King, and Flame Carp King pounced, the King Realm experts of the three empires couldn't gain any advantage. They were even at a disadvantage. It's time for the third watch. Today, Xiaoyu will write more chapters. This month, Xiaoyu will work hard to write. Chapter 743. Junior brother, there are still experts hiding in the dark. They are not weak and should have other motives. However, they are still under control. Suddenly, Yuanli said to Du Xiaofu as he looked into the distance. Is that so? Then let them come out. When Du Xiaofu heard this, his eyes shone with a golden light. The golden rune wings on his back condensed, and he disappeared from his original spot. Bang! The Lanling Mansion Master, Ouyang Ling, threw out a palm print at lightning speed. A terrifying gust of wind surged forward. However, the gust of wind did not seem to leak out at all. It was like a circle that enveloped a slender old man with long black hair. You have just reached the Martial King Realm. You are not strong enough. The black-haired old man sneered. Dazzling runes surged around his body and mysterious runes flashed on his palms. In an instant, he threw out a palm to meet the attack. Rumble. A palm print that left a dent in space was thrown out from the black-haired old man's hand. A terrifying aura swept out and caused the space to tremble. The two palm prints collided. The runes scattered, and there was a muffled sound. Then, they separated upon contact. Ding ding. Ouyang Ling's body was instantly pushed back. Wherever his feet passed, the space rippled. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was no match for Ouyang Ling. Uncle Ling, are you all right? A figure appeared behind Ouyang Ling. He placed his palm on Ouyang Ling's back and blocked the aftershock. Only then did Ouyang Ling's body stabilize. I am fine. Ouyang Ling turned his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were as clear as morning dew, and he was pleasantly surprised. He asked, Why did you suddenly come back? It's a long story. I will tell you another day. Du Xiaofu smiled. He then stepped into the air and looked in front of him. The black-haired old man who had just injured the Lanling Mansion Master, Ouyang Ling, was staring at him. Kid, we meet again. The black-haired old man had a slender figure. Multicolored light spread around his body as a mighty aura gushed out from his body. At this moment, he was staring at Du Xiaofu. His expression was extremely gloomy and cold. Xiaofu, this person is the Mirror Moon King of the Tianhu Empire. She should be at the peak of the Nirvana realm in the Martial Lord realm. Ouyang Ling said to Du Xiaofu. His heavily injured body moved forward, wanting to block in front of Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and stopped Ouyang Ling. He looked at Mirror Moon King with a cold glint in his eyes and said, Uncle Ling, I know this person. I saw her in Dragon City. Leave her to me. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu stepped forward and stood in front of Ouyang Ling. As he looked at Mirror Moon King, the coldness in his eyes intensified. This person was one of the kings who had accompanied Lu Kuan to the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial capital. Be careful. Ouyang Ling was worried. She was an expert at the peak of the Nirvana realm and the Martial King realm. Could this kid deal with her now? Kid, it's your bad luck to fall into my hands today. Die. Hearing her words, Du Xiaofu acted as if he didn't hear her. Back then, Lu Kuan was killed by this kid. How could Mirror Moon King forget Du Xiaofu in front of her? Her figure suddenly flashed and pounced towards Du Xiaofu. A palm print condensed and blasted towards Du Xiaofu. Boom. Mirror Moon King's palm print was as fast as lightning and landed directly on Du Xiaofu's body. A low, muffled sound resounded. Berserk energy poured out in torrents, blasting Du Xiaofu's body into pieces. However, not a single drop of blood appeared. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Ouyang Ling was shocked. It was actually just an afterimage. Du Xiaofu was so fast that he couldn't see it clearly. Oh no. At this moment, Mirror Moon King's expression changed drastically. She wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Golden light burst out, and Du Xiaofu's figure silently appeared behind Mirror Moon King. Golden rune wings flapped. Du Xiaofu waved his hand. His hand was like a palm leaf fan, creating a dent in space. Layers of golden runes swept out like the wings of a golden-winged rock and violently struck Mirror Moon King. Chilal. Under many shocked gazes, the body of Mirror Moon King, who was already at the peak of the Martial King realm, was shattered into pieces by the golden wings. Blood splattered across the sky. At this moment, Mirror Moon King had no power to resist. A Martial King at the peak of the Nirvana realm was killed in one move. Huff. Huff. In an instant, who knew how many people in the crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. Third brother's strength is getting more and more terrifying. Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, and the others looked at the sky in shock. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed without mercy. After dealing with Mirror Moon King in one move, Du Xiaofu looked at the sky in front of him. His faint voice was like thunder that suddenly resounded across the sky. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed without mercy. In the army of the Stone Dragon Empire, many voices were heard. The brave God King had returned, and the Martial King realm cultivators couldn't withstand a single blow. Everyone saw hope in the desperate situation. Kill. Du Xiaofu's figure swept out. A terrifying aura suddenly swept out from his body. A pair of rune wings flapped behind his back. He was like a rock spreading its wings and soaring to the 9 heavens. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever Du Xiaofu's figure passed, countless figures in the army of the 3 empires exploded. They couldn't withstand the pressure. Such a terrifying way of killing was terrifying. Boom. At this moment, the purple-robed youth was powerful and overbearing. He flapped his wings and swept across the sky, suppressing everything. It was like a real rock had descended. The overbearing and terrifying aura filled the sky. It was domineering and sharp, crushing everything in its path. Roar. Then, under countless shocked gazes, countless demonic, beast-vein souls trembled and crawled wherever the purple-robed youth passed. Several martial lord realm cultivators of the 3 empires gathered together and activated their vein souls to besiege the martial lord realm cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever Du Xiaofu's figure passed, numerous vein souls were destroyed and heavily injured. Rock chaos shattering claw. The claw swept out and the Xian Qi defense of a Martial King realm cultivator crumbled like tofu. Then, under the trembling gaze of Du Xiaofu, the Martial King realm cultivator's body was torn into a bloody mist. Tyrannical shadow change. Du Xiaofu waved his hand. The tyrannical shadow in his hand swept out and turned into an azure gold sword whip. It was extremely dazzling. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The azure gold sword whip was like a rock soaring through the sky. It was strange and unpredictable. Wherever it passed, a large number of martial lord realm cultivators were killed. A Martial King realm man spat out a mouthful of blood. He lowered his head and saw that a series of azure golden sword whips had lashed out from his abdomen. A terrifyingly tyrannical energy poured out, and his body exploded. The tyrannical shadow returned to his hand. Energy fluctuated and runes shot into the sky. The golden light was about to drown everything. Du Xiaofu's power was shocking. He walked with the carefree steps and flapped the rune wings on his back. He was like lightning and a ghost in the sky. Kill! Du Xiaofu yelled and rushed into a battle. The tyrannical shadow in his hand was so powerful that it seemed to be able to split the space. 100-foot sword aura swept across the sky, and a martial king realm cultivator was killed like an ant. Kill! The sword light spun and turned into an azure gold sword whip. Not far away, a martial king realm cultivator who was fighting with the Eagle King's gong blade didn't have time to react. His body was wrapped in a giant wolf bloodline soul, and he was killed by the sword whip. The martial kings couldn't even withstand a single blow from the brave god king. The people of the Stone Dragon Empire felt their blood boil as if they had been injected with a cardiac stimulant. Is there really a god realm cultivator coming to save us? The brave god king is a god realm cultivator. He is here to save us. In the Enlightenment City, countless elders looked up to the sky and bowed. At this moment, the overbearing youth with golden wings was standing in the sky like a god realm cultivator. Roar! The mysterious Dragon King, the Flame Carp King, the Stone Turtle King, and the Ice Python King all turned into their true forms. Their terrifying power suppressed the sky. The mysterious Dragon King and the other four's true forms were covered by countless runes, causing their opponents to suffer. Many martial king realm cultivators of the three empires were already severely injured. The Solitary Sword King, the Golden Condor King, and Chan Yuxiu all attacked with their full strength. Terrifying ripples spread out and surrounded the martial king realm cultivators of the three empires. Boom! The wrinkles on the North Vanquishing Prince's face were like small paths in a field. A bone-chilling aura spread out as if it was going to freeze the entire space. Under the spread of the chilling aura, even the black bear-like Giant Bear King was affected and frozen by the chilling aura. Chilling Ice Storm Fist. The North Vanquishing Prince blasted out a punch with a terrifying chilling aura. Seeing the North Vanquishing Prince's punch coming, the Giant Bear King's eyes flickered. A vast and vigorous aura surged out as a fist seal pressed down on the North Vanquishing Prince at almost the same time. Boom! As the two fist seals collided, the chilling aura and vigorous aura were released at the same time. Dazzling runes released ripples that caused the entire sky to tremble. Stomp, stomp, then, both of them were pushed back a few steps at the same time. They were evenly matched and neither of them had the upper hand. The Giant Bear King's fist was covered in frost. His profound chi surged and removed the frost. He looked at the North Vanquishing Prince and said, "I didn't expect you to recover from the chilling poison in your body. Not only have you recovered, but your strength has also increased." The North Vanquishing Prince said in a deep voice. He looked around and said to the Giant Bear King, "It seems like you won't get what you want today. Humph, no matter what, the result can't be changed today." The Giant Bear King sneered, but at this moment, he looked around with an embarrassed expression and slightly frowned. Many experts from the other three empires were killed. With the help of the Beast King Realm and Martial King Realm experts, the Stone Dragon Empire managed to turn the tables and turn the tide of the battle. Grandpa Xia. The golden rune wings flapped and Du Xiaofu appeared in front of the North Vanquishing Prince. "You've come back at the right time." The North Vanquishing Prince nodded. He looked at Du Xiaofu with a kind and excited look. The young man in front of him had returned with so many experts and changed the whole situation. "Grandpa Xia, leave this person to me." Du Xiaofu fixed his eyes on the Giant Bear King. He could tell that the Giant Bear King was the leader of the three empires' allied forces. Du Xiaofu planned to deal with the person in front of him first. This is the Giant Bear King of the Tianhu Empire, the #1 king of the Tianhu Empire. His cultivation is close to the peak of the Martial King realm. The North Vanquishing Prince looked at Du Xiaofu and said. He seemed to be reminding Du Xiaofu and worrying about Du Xiaofu. "Don't worry, Grandpa Xia. I think I can kill this person." Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and smiled. The killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. He wanted to kill the Giant Bear King. "Well, I'll go help the South Vanquishing Prince. I'll leave this person to you." The North Vanquishing Prince said no more. He knew Du Xiaofu's character. If he wasn't confident, he would never do it. The North Vanquishing Prince was shocked. The young man in front of him had grown to such a terrifying level. Could he really kill a Martial King Realm expert at the peak of the Martial King Realm? Boy, are you Du Xiaofu? You're boasting shamelessly. You'll pay the price for this. The giant bear king had already noticed Du Xiaofu and had heard of Du Xiaofu's name. He looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted. The vigorous aura around him fluctuated. The giant bear king's fist, which was bigger than a clay pot, was wrapped in runes and punched directly at Du Xiaofu. Boom! The punch seemed to explode the space. The terrifying aura made people tremble in fear. Du Xiaofu's dominating shadow swept out. He performed the furious sword-cutting sun from the bright saint swordplay, and a terrifying sword radiance burst out. What a powerful sword! Suddenly, the giant bear king's face changed. He withdrew his fist and did not dare to take it head-on. A primitive Taoist weapon appeared in his palm. Boom! The giant bear king attacked with all his might. The runes in the sky surged, and he barely resisted the dominating shadow's sword power. However, cracks appeared on the primitive Taoist weapon. What a powerful sword! It's at least a high-grade Taoist weapon. The giant bear king was shocked. His opponent's strange sword was too powerful and terrifying. Its strength was also incredible. Continue. The giant bear king was not a weakling. He avoided the important part and focused on the trivial. The primitive Taoist weapon in his hand spun and turned into shadows of the club that surrounded Du Xiaofu. Roar of the sacred sword. Du Xiaofu drew his sword, and the tyrannical shadow was filled with boundless sword qi. It was domineering and sharp, and the sword light shot up into the sky and tangled with the staff shadow. It caused the sky to boil, and then it dissipated in midair. Boy, die! Almost at the same time, the giant bear king shouted. The runes on his black, bear-like body burst out and turned into a terrifying giant yellow bear that was dozens of feet long. Boom! The giant black bear was the giant bear king's vain spirit. The runes all over its body glowed with dazzling light, and it seemed to be accompanied by flashes of lightning. It caused the surrounding world to rumble as it charged at Du Xiaofu. The giant bear king activated his vain spirit and wanted to take the opportunity to kill Du Xiaofu. The spiked club Dao treasure from before was just a bait for the giant bear king. His true goal was to rely on the special effects of his bloodline soul, the thunderstorm astral bear, to completely kill Du Xiaofu. Rock descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu was not afraid. The rune wings on his back opened and closed. Golden light bloomed and filled the sky. It was as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. He carried the domineering will of the golden-winged rock race. He flapped his wings and swept towards the giant bear king. Under the domineering aura, the giant bear king immediately felt his vain spirit being suppressed. It was as if he had met a supreme expert and wanted to crawl. Rumble. The two of them suppressed each other. From the point of collision, a series of runes shot out and shone brightly. The energy swept across the sky. Boy, you are only at the Martial King realm. I am at the peak of the Martial King realm. You can't fight against me. The giant bear king shouted. The runes on the thunderstorm big bear vein spirit burst out. The runes surged in the sky and caused the space to tremble violently. Is that so? Du Xiaofu sneered. Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted from his body again, like a volcano that had been suppressed. A huge chapter, almost 2 chapters. Today's update will be completed. Brothers, go to bed early after reading it. I will continue to beg for fresh flowers and recommendations. Thank you. Chapter 744. In an instant, golden light flowed all over Du Xiaofu's body. It seemed to be filled with mysteries as it led to an intense energy fluctuation that spread out in the area. Whoosh! The energy in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something at this moment. It began to gather crazily towards Du Xiaofu. It was extremely intense and terrifying. The energy fluctuation in the area did not stop. An extremely domineering aura started to seep out from Du Xiaofu's body. It was endless and shot golden light into the sky. Boom! At that moment, the golden light around Du Xiaofu's body was like a sun that was about to rise. The wind and clouds in the sky were dyed golden. The light was so bright that it looked like a sea of golden clouds. Countless people on the battlefield, seemed to have sensed something and looked up. There was a golden light that shot into the sky. As the domineering aura descended, it caused the vain spirits inside and outside the body to show signs of trembling. The golden light burst out and lit up the area. The golden light was boundless and the golden light was dazzling. At the same time, the golden rune wings on Du Xiaofu's back gradually disappeared and were replaced by another pair of golden wings. This pair of golden wings was no longer an illusory pair of rune wings. Instead, it was so real. The golden wings spread out from Du Xiaofu's back and were covered by layers of golden feathers. In an instant, the golden wings shone boundless golden light. It was like a golden torrent that hung in the sky. It carried an extremely domineering aura. That is, at that moment, the entire battlefield was trembling. Countless people were terrified. Far away in the sky, there were also several hidden auras that silently spied over as if they had been electrocuted. Roar. The battlefield was filled with roars. Countless demonic beasts and demonic beast-vein spirits were terrified. The aura that spread out from the golden wings was the aura of a king that the demonic beasts and demonic beast-vein spirits could not resist. They could only crawl. Otherwise, they would not be able to resist. Oh no! At that moment, the giant bear king seemed to have sensed something. The thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear's huge eyes were filled with shock and fear. Peak of the complete martial king realm. I will still kill you. Du Xiaofu spat out these indifferent and domineering words. Mysterious talisman runes flickered within the golden torrent that hung between the heavens and the earth, emitting a blazing radiance. After which, an enormous golden-winged rock flapped its wings and appeared. Whoosh! The golden-winged rock spread out its ferocious aura, which made everyone's heart tremble. What a powerful aura! The entire battlefield was in shock. Everyone was trembling, and the blood in their bodies seemed to be boiling. The pressure that spread out from the enormous golden-winged rock made all those who were not strong enough want to crawl on the ground. Roar! The cries of the golden-winged rock pierced through the clouds. The entire battlefield and the enormous Enlightenment City were trembling. The entire space was trembling. The is Rorak arts is he rock, S or is rocks? S is too? The martial emperor realm cultivators were startled. The aura of the illusionary figure of the golden-winged Peng bird was too imperious. The huge thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian Spirit trembled and its pupils shrank in fear. The thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian Spirit was naturally suppressed by the rock's aura and was unable to resist. To the giant bear king, Sumo was only a martial king realm cultivator. However, Sumo's strength was not inferior to his, especially the rock's golden wings. They were the real rock's golden wings. The giant bear king could not resist them at all. How would the giant bear king know that the golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back were the real rock's golden wings? Rock descends to the ninth heaven. Suppress. Du Xiaofu activated the rock descends to the ninth heaven with the real rock's golden wings. At this moment, the rock's wings were wide open and Du Xiaofu felt that he was the real rock. He had merged with his blood and soul and soared into the sky. The rock's golden wings swept over the thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian Spirit. In the sky, the huge golden-winged rock that was projected out wanted to soar into the sky, look down on the world, and suppress all living beings. Rumble. At this moment, the sky was filled with golden light. The vast plains were shaking, and the ground in Enlightenment City was cracking. The rock's golden rock art was so powerful that it shook the heavens and the earth. Under the gazes of countless people, the thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian Spirit on the giant bear king's body was destroyed and turned into pieces. Above the torrent of golden light, the gigantic golden-winged rock's illusory figure gradually disappeared. Uft! The giant bear king's body was revealed. He opened his mouth and spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with fear. He immediately retreated and fled. Kill! A figure wrapped in golden light appeared silently behind the fleeing Ursa King. The figure wrapped in golden light had a pair of golden runic wings spread out behind his back. He was like a rock spreading its wings. His body was releasing a boundless and domineering aura, as if he was going to soar into the sky. There was a supreme aura spreading out and suppressing the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes shot out golden light. It was like two suns shining in the sky and overlooking the world. Rock's chaos-crushing claw. A sharp claw was stretched out. It was like a real rock's claw that wanted to tear through the sky. Golden runic patterns flickered and a powerful and domineering aura spread out from the sharp claw. As the claw swept out, the terrifying aura caused the space to rumble. Domineering energy fluctuations rose and fell like an ocean. It was like a golden rainbow across the sky. Amidst the surging runes, it directly landed on the giant bear king and trapped him. The terrifying aura suppressed him. At this moment, the giant bear king was unable to escape. He was unable to resist. Stop! Stop right there! A thunderous shout resounded from the 9 heavens. A thunderous roar resounded as a stream of light swept over from the distance. It was like a thunderbolt as it swept towards Du Xiaofu. It was accompanied by a terrifying aura. You're finally willing to come out. Unfortunately, you're still unable to stop it with your strength. Get the hell back. At the same time, Yuanli's voice resounded. Subsequently, everyone saw a stream of light soar into the sky and directly collide with the figure that was sweeping over from the distance. Their speed was too fast, and the two figures collided in an instant. Then, a muffled thunder-like sound rang out. Bang! The muffled noises did not stop, causing the entire Enlightenment City to rumble incessantly. How terrifying! The terrifying aura spread out, causing all the martial kings present to tremble. Martial royal realm? As they sensed the frightening aura that spread, the hearts of all the experts on the battlefield emitted numerous shocked mutters. At the same time, the giant bear king's body was swept up by the sharp claw that was like the golden wings of a rock. The terrifying domineering aura spread out, causing the entire area to tremble. Chi-la-la, under the claw, the giant bear king's pupils shrunk and he trembled. Subsequently, he was torn into pieces and blood mist. The giant bear king, who was at the complete martial king realm and was recognized as the #1 king in the Tianhu Empire, had been killed in the sky. Throughout the battlefield, both inside and outside of Enlightenment City, countless pairs of eyes stared at the golden-winged figure in the sky. They trembled and prostrated themselves. The golden wings gradually retracted, and the golden light disappeared. The terrifying domineering aura rippled and gradually dissipated under countless pairs of trembling eyes. As the golden light dissipated, Du Xiaofu's figure was revealed. His face was pale, and a mouthful of golden blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Du Xiaofu had used all his strength to kill the giant bear king, who was at the peak of the complete martial king realm. Although he had used the real golden wings of a rock, Du Xiaofu's huge celestial qi was almost not enough to support it. However, even though Du Xiaofu had managed to kill the giant bear king as he wished, he was still greatly affected. The giant bear king has been killed. North Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Ling, South Vanquishing Prince, East Vanquishing Prince, Eagle King, and Gong Dao were all waiting. At this moment, they were all dumbfounded and gasping. The purple-robed youth was able to kill the giant bear king, who was at the peak of the complete martial king realm. At this moment, the purple-robed youth's strength had reached a terrifying level. After being stunned for a moment, the Stone Dragon Empire's troops on the battlefield burst into a thunderous uproar. The invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our country's prestige. The invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our country's prestige. President, the invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our world society. Roar! Everyone stared at the purple-robed young man in the air with fervent gazes. Their fervent gazes had reached a fanatical level. After the giant bear king was killed, the Stone Dragon Empire's army, world society, Heavenly Beast Hall, and other forces were in an uproar for a long time. The waves of cheers resounded through the clouds and shook the 9 heavens. The Divine Seal King must be the incarnation of a heavenly god. In Enlightenment City, countless old people were praying and kneeling. In Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of people imprinted that domineering figure in the depths of their souls. Chapter 745. Under everyone's gaze, the giant bear king, the #1 king of the Tianhu Empire, was killed by the courage god king, shocking the entire battlefield. Everyone's hearts trembled. The courage god king did not disappoint. He was as domineering and ferocious as ever. Grandpa is right. He is not an ordinary person. Right now, he has already risen to the top. On the battlefield, Xiefei's beautiful eyes landed on the purple-robed young man who was cheering. Deep within her beautiful eyes, there were ripples of shock. That is the third brother of the Du family. Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong's eyes trembled as they fought. So strong. Mysterious Dragon King, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Chan Yuxiu, Zhuang Pingyang, and the others all looked at the purple-robed young man. At that moment, their hearts began to fluctuate. An indescribable thought emerged in their hearts. It was as if following the purple-robed young man was a blessing rather than a curse. Ding, 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 ding. At the same time, in the sky, a figure was pushed back. It was a tall old man who looked to be in his 90s. His face was skinny and full of wrinkles, but his eyes were bright and gloomy. Puffed. As the old man was pushed back, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with shock. In midair, Yu Wanli did not move. He stood with one hand behind his back. It seemed like he only used one hand to attack. Junior brother, are you okay? Amidst the deafening cheers, Yu Wanli had already reached Du Xiaofu's side. When he felt that Du Xiaofu was fine, he was relieved. Third senior brother, I'm fine. Du Xiaofu shook his head and stuffed a Xinyuan elixir into his mouth. Du Xiaofu immediately looked at the old man who was pushed back by Yu Wanli. The aura radiating from the old man caused Du Xiaofu's expression to turn solemn. A profound-level martial emperor. He's not weak at all. Yu Wanli followed Du Xiaofu's gaze and looked at the old man who had just been pushed back by him. However, he didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect the Stone Dragon Empire to have a martial emperor. The old man's figure retreated, his gloomy eyes looking at Yu Wanli and Du Xiaofu with an ugly expression. Whoosh! As the old man finished speaking, two figures that looked like flowing lights shot over from the distant sky. They were like lightning and instantly appeared beside the old man. The light receded, revealing two figures. Both of them looked to be in their 70s or 80s, and the aura on their bodies was almost the same as the first old man. Two more martial emperors. With the appearance of the two old men, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly, and his eyes narrowed again. Du Xiaofu sensed a special aura from the three old men. That aura was extremely strange and mysterious. It was not something that an ordinary cultivator could possess. Greetings, old emperor. Just as Du Xiaofu was concentrating, within the battle circle, the Tianhu Empire, the Jinshan Empire, and the Zhenghong Empire were dueling. Respectful greetings could be heard. Could it be that the old emperors of the three empires are still alive? Du Xiaofu's eyebrows twitched. The aura that spread out from the three old men should be a kind of imperial palace dragon chi without a doubt. On the other hand, Yu Wanli and the other two old men beside Du Xiaofu didn't look surprised, nor did they look worried. That's, as the few old men stepped into the air, an invisible aura spread out. The cheers that were boiling because of Du Xiaofu seemed to have sensed something, and at this moment, for no reason, they slowly quieted down. The North vanquishing prince, the South vanquishing prince, the East vanquishing prince, the mysterious Dragon King, the silver-winged demonic condor, and the others' eyes flickered when they sensed the appearance of the old men. The gazes of the two old men who had just arrived were secretly changing as they looked at Yu Wanli and Du Xiaofu. Then, one of the old men in yellow looked at the sky and said in a soft voice, Cheng Fanshi, it's time for you to come out. The old emperor is also here? Hearing the old man's words, the North vanquishing king, the South vanquishing king, and the East vanquishing king of the Stone Dragon Empire were secretly moved. Gongjianya, Yu Wenxing, Ji Guangjia, you're actually still alive? You still want to join hands to find this old man? A faint voice came from the direction of Enlightenment City. In the distant sky, a figure slowly came over. That figure was wrapped in a faint golden light, and an invisible pressure descended upon him. The figure appeared in the sky and directly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. Within the faint golden light, a dense aura spread out. That aura was much denser and more solid than the three old men's. Du Xiaofu felt a majestic aura crushing down on him as if a dragon had descended. It was an old man in his 80s. His long black hair was draped over his shoulders, and there were a few strands of golden hair that were extremely eye-catching. His eyes were deep and rippled like the vast sea. "Greetings, old emperor." Seeing the old man appear, the north vanquishing king, the south vanquishing king, and the east vanquishing king immediately saluted. The old emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Du Xiaofu's gaze also fell on the old man beside him. He was surprised that the old emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire was still alive. "Good job, little guy." The old emperor waved his hand and looked at Du Xiaofu with a faint smile. His rippling eyes revealed a look of admiration. "Cheng Fanshi, let's settle everything today between us." One of the two old men, a rather short old man, looked at Cheng Fanshi of the Stone Dragon Empire and said, "Ji Guangjiada, you don't seem to have much of a chance of winning?" Cheng Fanshi turned around and looked at the old man who spoke. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back and his eyes blazed like torches. "We'll know after we try. Do you think we wouldn't come if we weren't confident?" The old man who was the first to be forced back by Yuanli shouted. Immediately, a powerful aura gushed out from his body. The light in his eyes was like that of a ferocious beast awakening. As the runes flashed, it was as if ferocious beasts were condensing. The aura was extremely terrifying. Boom! Then a warblade appeared in the old man's hand. The runes on the warblade flickered. Its chi was so powerful that it almost overflowed the void. A top high-grade Dao weapon. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The power of the terrifying warblade was slightly higher than his Fuyao heaven-shaking fan. It was definitely not inferior to the tyrannical shadow. The ancient aura that pervaded the warblade was more ancient than his tyrannical shadow. It had been accumulated for thousands of years. It was a peak high-grade Dao weapon, but it was almost beyond the level of a Dao weapon. Its aura was so terrifying that it made people shudder with fear. At this moment, sensing the warblade in the old man's hand, Cheng Fanshi's old face suddenly turned solemn. "Cheng Fanshi, do you think we still have a chance of winning?" The old man stared at Cheng Fanshi. His voice was calm, but at that moment, everyone could tell that with the saber in his hand, the old man was confident and calm. He was starting to become stronger. Roar! Suddenly, just as the old man's voice fell, in the distant sky where the wind and clouds were surging, an astonishing lion roar was suddenly heard. Roar! The sound waves surged as the lion's roar reverberated throughout the world. Everyone looked to the side as several rays of light appeared in the distant sky. Faintly, there was an astonishing aura that caused huge waves in the sky. Roar! The rays of light were getting closer and closer as fierce creatures swept across the sky. They were as fast as lightning, and the lion's roar was becoming more and more astonishing. In a short moment, the dazzling rays of light had already appeared in the sky. Many people's faces were suddenly filled with shock. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, for terrifying behemoths that were over 100 feet tall stepped through the air and approached them. From afar, those behemoths looked like 4 mountains in the sky. As they got closer and closer, everyone could see them clearly. Only then did they realize that they were 4 gigantic golden lions. The lions had 3 heads. The middle head was especially huge. Its 6 eyes were like lanterns and covered in golden scales. It looked as if it was cast from metal, and the runes on it were shining brightly. The 4 three-headed lions stepped into the sky, causing the surrounding air to surge like waves. Ripples spread out, causing the profound energy in people's bodies to stagnate. Oh my God! At this moment, what was even more shocking was that the 4 lions were neatly divided into 2 groups. They stood side by side and looked very tame. In the middle of the 4 three-headed golden lions was actually pulling a phoenix carriage. On the phoenix carriage, the runes fluctuated and the aura spread out as if it was alive. It was extremely terrifying. 3-headed golden lions aren't ranked low on the heavenly beast list. They're all at the peak of the complete beast king realm. Du Xiaofu looked at the 4 terrifying golden lions and his gaze trembled. Three-headed golden lions were definitely not ranked below the scarlet cloud dragon on the heavenly beast list. Moreover, there were 4 of them at the peak of the complete beast king realm. That was even more rare. To be able to take out 4 three-headed golden lions at the peak of the complete beast king realm to pull the carriage, the power behind that person was definitely extraordinary. The golden lion phoenix carriage is from the Great Wheel sect. Chapter 746. Yuanli looked at the phoenix chariot pulled by the three-headed golden lions, and his expression changed. He then sent a message to Du Xiaofu and said, "Junior brother, that is the golden lion phoenix chariot. They should be from the Great Luan sect. Be careful." Great Luan sect. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled inwardly. 1 valley, 2 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects. These 9 great sects were the Spirit Sky Valley, the Immeasurable Sect, the Great Luan Sect, the Ancient Heaven Sect, the Sky Serpent Sect, the Profound Underworld Sect, the Celestial Capital Sect, the Huijian Sect, and the Profound Talisman Sect. These 9 great sects were famous throughout the central continent, and their experts were as numerous as the clouds. Roar! The 4 three-headed golden lions roared, and a terrifying aura swept across the sky. The Old Lord, Cheng Fanshi, Gong Jianye, Yu Wenqing, Ji Guang, and Jiada all looked at the Great Luan sect seriously. Swoosh swoosh. The golden lion phoenix chariot appeared in the sky, and 3 elders who looked to be in their 50s and a big man who looked to be in his 40s flew out. The appearance of these 4 people caused the entire sky to tremble for no reason. Inadvertently, a faintly discernible invisible pressure spread out, causing the Martial King Realm and Martial King Realm cultivators to tremble in fear. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the 4 people. As he looked at the 4 of them, a chaotic pressure involuntarily gushed out from Du Xiaofu's heart. The 4 of them seemed to be releasing endless immortal pressure from their bodies. Great Circle Martial King Realm. 4 Great Circle Martial Kings and a golden lion phoenix chariot. It seems like the person in the phoenix chariot is the legendary person in the Great Luan sect. Yuanli muttered softly, as if he was talking to Du Xiaofu, but also as if he was muttering to himself. Swoosh! As the 4 of them flew out, a beautiful figure flew out of the phoenix chariot and drew a beautiful arc in the sky. Then, the beautiful figure appeared in the sky and shouted, "Cheng Xingnan from the Stone Dragon Empire is here. Who dares to invade our borders?" The voice was clear and loud. A beautiful figure floated in the air. A lady wearing an orange-red tight dress appeared. She had a pair of long and slender legs and a slim waist that could not be hugged, causing her originally tall figure to appear even more slender and enchanting. Her appearance was extremely moving. However, at this moment, there was a cold glint shooting out from her eyes. "It's her." Looking at the familiar figure, Du Xiaofu's Majesty's Luan sect princess. He did not expect the first princess to be in the phoenix chariot. The first princess is back. At this moment, many experts from the Stone Dragon Empire were moved. The old emperor, Cheng Fanshi, was also surprised by Cheng Xingnan's appearance in the phoenix chariot. Gong Jianye, Yu Wenqing, and Ji Guangjia's faces turned ugly when they saw that the first princess of the Stone Dragon Empire, Cheng Xingnan, had arrived in the phoenix chariot. "Welcome, Holy Son." The 3 old men and a middle-aged man appeared and stood respectfully in front of the phoenix chariot. His voice was calm, but it reverberated in all directions and resounded in the sky. His voice was accompanied by a strange force that caused the minds of those who heard it to tremble and their ears to tremble. A young man in a red robe walked out of the phoenix chariot. He was a young man in his early 20s, and he had his head slightly lowered. It was difficult to control a young man in a red robe. However, the red robe on the young man's body was embroidered with many exquisite patterns. It was as if it was a perfect fit with the young man's body. The young man seemed to be born with the ability to capture everyone's attention. Everyone's attention was on him. The young man in the red robe raised his head and his eyes were dazzling. No one dared to look at him directly. The young man had light golden hair and stood in the air. His entire body seemed to be shrouded in light and was naturally dazzling. "Everyone from the Stone Dragon Empire, please step back a little." The young man's voice was loud enough to cover the dull sounds below. It was loud enough to make the entire battlefield hear it clearly. This voice made people who heard it feel as if they could feel a wave of warmth entering their hearts and their minds rippling. Bang, bang, bang. The army in the middle of a fierce battle seemed to be affected by the young man's voice. They felt like they couldn't control themselves and stopped fighting. Swoosh, swoosh. The experts from the Stone Dragon Empire retreated one by one and floated in the air. They looked at the young man in the red robe with awe in their eyes. Even the mysterious Dragon King, the solitary Sword King, and the silver-winged demonic condor stopped fighting with their opponents and retreated to Du Xiaofu's side. They were dazed for a moment before regaining their senses. At this moment, many experts from the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire looked at Gongjianye, Jiguang, Jiada, and Yuanqing in confusion. They looked at each other angrily.
Attack!
The young man in the red robe said softly and waved his hand. Yes, holy son. The three old men and the middle-aged man nodded respectfully. As soon as he finished speaking, the four of them stepped into the air. Light blossomed from their bodies and runes swept across the sky. They directly pounced on Gongjianye and the others. Kill! The four terrifying experts instantly appeared beside Gongjianye and the others. Their bodies shone with boundless light as their terrifying attacks swept out in a manner that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Shit! The pitiful Gongjianye and the other two didn't even have time to react before they were annihilated. Rumble! Terrifying rune energy filled the 9 heavens. The 4 terrifying experts who came with the young man in the red robe were covered in endless divine light. They were so bright that lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The terrifying energy shook the heavens and the earth. Lightning flashed across the sky. It was extremely terrifying and shocking. In the terrifying energy attack, Gongjianye and the others were instantly wrapped in dazzling runes. Not long after, miserable shrieks rang out one by one. Ear-piercing shrieks rang out. It was enough to show that Gongjianye and the others didn't even have a chance to fight back. They were definitely killed. Gongjianye didn't even know how he died. Martial emperors were killed in such a simple and quick manner in the sky. Kill, the young man in the red robe said softly again. He waved his hand slightly, and his voice was so calm that it didn't fluctuate at all. Roar, as the young man in the red robe spoke. The 4 mountain-like, 3-headed golden lions roared and charged towards the Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the 3 empires. The Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires, as well as 6-star and 5-star spiritual talisman masters, were all trembling because of the old emperor's death. Before they could react, they had already suffered a devastating attack. Roar, a 3-headed golden lion, opened its bloody mouth and directly swallowed 5 or 6 Martial Lord Realm cultivators. Gotcha! A Martial King Realm cultivator was directly torn into pieces by a 3-headed golden lion. Kill! The 4 Martial Emperors also continued to attack. Their attacks swept across the sky, and the Martial King Realm cultivators screamed miserably. One by one, the Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the 3 empires were directly killed. There was simply no way for them to resist. Terrifying. This is too terrifying. Everyone from the Stone Dragon Empire was dumbfounded and exclaimed. That kind of strength was so terrifying that it was beyond everyone's imagination. That was a group of terrifying powerhouses. They could destroy the top powerhouses of the 3 empires with just a wave of their hand. Run! Run quickly! The Martial King Realm cultivators of the 3 empires shouted and quickly ran for their lives. However, at this moment, under the siege of the 4 3-headed golden lions and the 4 Martial Royal Realm experts, no one could escape. A large number of the army of the 3 empires were also eaten by the 4 3-headed golden lions. The entire vast square was filled with broken limbs and broken bones. Corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. All the powerful cultivators of the 3 empires were almost completely annihilated. Every single one of them was killed. All of this happened in a short period of time, and all of this was done by the 4 people and the 4 beasts. How terrifying and shocking was that? The strength of those people and the terrifying demonic beasts was actually so terrifying. Everyone looked at all of this and was stunned. They were unable to recover from their shock and could not believe it. Looking at all of this, a new world opened up in the hearts of countless people. Only then did they realize that there were actually such experts in this world. Those who offend my empire must be killed. Chang Shengnan looked at the sky in front of her, and her clear voice echoed between heaven and earth. Kill. The army of the Stone Dragon Empire came back to their senses and immediately began to counterattack. The army of the Stone Dragon Empire was boiling with blood, and sharp killing intent soared into the sky. Run, run quickly. At this moment, almost all of the experts of the three empires' army were killed. Under that kind of intimidation, their bodies trembled and their souls trembled. They could not resist at all, and could only flee in all directions. Rumble. Ah! Low muffled sounds where endless and miserable cries were heard. What awaited the army of the three empires was a massacre. Corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. The killing shook the sky. The four three-headed golden lions and the four terrifying experts did not interfere. They flew to the back of the golden-haired young man in the red robe. 2 nights in a row, asking for flowers and recommendations. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Chapter 747. The golden-haired young man in the red robe appeared beside eldest princess Chengsheng. He said softly, "Junior sister Shengnan, it has been settled. You don't have to worry about it anymore." "Thank you for your help, Saint." The first princess Shengnan bowed slightly. Her elegant temperament was somewhat cold, but at this moment, her eyes were filled with gratitude. "I said that you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Qi Huang. Calling me Saint makes us seem distant." The young man in the red robe smiled. He had a face that looked like it was carved out of a sculpture. The curve of his lips was perfect, and he seemed to be smiling all the time. This kind of smile seemed to be able to push away the darkness from the clouds. It was gentle and at ease. "Then I'll just follow your orders, senior brother Qi Huang." Cheng Shengnan smiled. As the experts from the three empires were all killed, the worry in her heart disappeared. The worry on her face slowly dissipated. "Now you don't treat me as an outsider. You seem much friendlier." The golden-haired young man in the red robe looked at Cheng Shengnan. His smile made ripples appear in his eyes. However, under his noble and extraordinary aura, it was difficult for others to see through him. "Shengnan, why are you back?" The old Lord Cheng Fancher came to Cheng Shengnan's side. At this moment, his gaze landed on the golden-haired young man in the red robe. "Grandfather, I was in seclusion in the divine court. I only received news from father when I came out of seclusion. That's why I rushed back. Fortunately, I made it in time." Cheng Shengnan bowed. Then, she happily introduced the golden-haired young man in the red robe to her grandfather Cheng Fancher. She said, "Grandfather, let me introduce you. This is the saint of the Great Luan sect. This time, it's all thanks to senior brother Qi Huang's help." Great Luan sect. Hearing those 3 words, Cheng Fancher's eyes trembled. The Great Luan sect. Even the Stone Dragon Empire, which was far away, knew what it represented. "Greetings, holy son." Cheng Fanchi bowed respectfully. He was the emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, a strong cultivator of the Huangqi layer, but he knew that an empire was nothing in front of the Great Luan sect. The 3 martial dominators were killed in the blink of an eye. "Since you're junior sister Shengnan's grandfather, there's no need to be courteous. Just call me Qi Huang." The red-robed, golden-haired man smiled. With a shake of his hand, a battle blade appeared in his hand. It was the peak high-grade Dao artifact that Gong Jianya had used previously. After Gong Jianya was killed, the Dao artifact naturally fell into the hands of the martial lord elders. Then, it naturally fell into the hands of the red-robed blonde man. "I came here in a hurry and didn't know that I would meet junior sister Shengnan's grandfather. Why don't I present a gift to Buddha with borrowed flowers? Grandfather, please accept it." The red-robed young man handed the saber in his hand to Cheng Fancher with a warm smile on his face. Cheng Fancher was stunned and squinted his eyes. How could he not know the value of the saber? The saber was definitely a precious treasure. Its value was immeasurable. Calling it a national treasure was an understatement. After a few breaths, the Emperor Chang Fanshi held the saber in his hand. His eyes trembled slightly. It was definitely a precious treasure. A martial emperor would not be able to resist its temptation. Shengnan. A faint voice, a calm tone. His eyes were filled with surprise and joy. There was also a hint of longing. Du Xiaofu went to the first Princess Chang Shengnan's side. The woman in front of him was becoming more and more attractive. Xiaofu, why are you back? The first Princess Chang Shengnan had already seen Du Xiaofu. However, when she looked at the young man in front of her, she was still surprised. After that, a smile appeared on her beautiful face, like a beautiful rose blooming on her cheeks. Her beautiful figure walked in front of Du Xiaofu, and a delicate fragrance permeated the air. Her red lips parted slightly, and her eyes rippled. I've heard some news about you. I originally thought that you wouldn't be here at this time, but I didn't expect that you would return. I have also just arrived, Du Xiaofu said softly as he looked at the woman in front of him, junior sister Shengnan. This is? The red-robed young man with golden hair stepped forward and looked at Du Xiaofu with a smile. He was very approachable and made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Let me introduce him to you. Chang Shengnan smiled and introduced the red-robed young man to Du Xiaofu. She said, "This is the holy son of the great Luan sect, senior brother Dongli Chihuang." Chang Shengnan then introduced Du Xiaofu to Dongli Chihuang. The ripples in her eyes had already disappeared. She smiled and said, "This is the youngest king of our Stone Dragon Empire. He once defeated the human king of the Sky Serpent sect, the genius Lu Kuan, and the valiant king Du Xiaofu." Dongli Chihuang looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. He said, "The Stone Dragon Empire is indeed blessed with outstanding people." Du Xiaofu nodded at Dongli Chihuang. The holy son of the great Luan sect sounded very impressive. It was not difficult to see that this person's position in the great Luan sect was not low. "Impudent! Why don't you greet the holy son?" Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. It was the middle-aged man among the four perfection martial emperors behind Dongli Chihuang. He shouted at Du Xiaofu. His voice rolled out, and his aura caused the surrounding space to tremble violently. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man who had just spoken. His face darkened slightly. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, many people in the surroundings looked over with complicated gazes. The great Luan sect is so impressive. It's fine if you show off in front of others, but in front of us, it's not the great Luan sect's turn to show off. An indifferent voice was heard. Yu Wanli's figure appeared beside Du Xiaofu. He looked at the middle-aged man who had just spoken. Yu Wanli's eyes shone brightly, and he said in a sharp voice, "The reincarnated holy son of the great Luan sect has a high position. However, that's only in the great Luan sect. I'm afraid that even Dongli Changgu of the great Luan sect would not be able to get my junior to greet you." Yu Wanli's voice was heard, and it was not inferior to the middle-aged man from the great Luan sect. "How dare you?" The great Luan sect's middle-aged man who was at the great Luan sect's great Luan sect was shocked. He shouted and his aura surged. Boom! At the same time, the other three martial royal realm experts sensed that Yu Wanli's aura was not ordinary and their auras surged. Roar! At the same time, the four three-headed golden lions roared and four terrifying auras swept out. They looked at Yu Wanli and Du Xiaofu fiercely. Swoosh, swoosh. In a flash, more than 20 figures appeared behind Du Xiaofu. They were the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Chan Yuxiu, and the rest. Their auras surged out. Humph! A man who looked to be in his 30s snorted. He was the mysterious Dragon King, and his aura swept out towards the four three-headed golden lions. Humph! A handsome man in a white shirt snorted. He was the silver-winged demon condor from the Chaos Demon Cliff. His handsome face had a noble demonic aura, and his aura was overbearing. His aura was not inferior to the three-headed golden lion's aura. Swoosh, swoosh. Then, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu and the rest rushed over and stood behind Du Xiaofu. The two sides were at daggers drawn, and the surrounding people's gazes changed. They were afraid that the two sides would break out into a huge battle. "How can you be so rude to junior sister Shengnan's men? Back off!" Dongli Chi Huang waved his hand at the 4 people and 4 beasts behind him. He shook his red robe and glanced at the mysterious Dragon King, Silver-Winged Demon Condor, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the rest behind Du Xiaofu. Then, his gaze landed on Yu Wanli and Du Xiaofu. Dongli's Scarlet Phoenix's eyes flickered. She smiled and said to Wanli gently, "May I know who you are?" "Humph, I am." Yu Wanli snorted. The Great Luan sect did not scare him. Yu Wanli was right. The reincarnated saint of the Great Luan sect had a high status in the sect. However, Yu Wanli also knew that this little junior brother of his had a high status in the ancient heaven sect. Putting his junior brother's strength and status aside, his status as the junior brother of the ancient heaven sect's sect master was enough for him to be on equal footing with the higher-ups of the Great Luan sect. Third senior brother. Yu Wanli was about to introduce himself, but Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and waved his hand to signal his third senior brother not to say anything. Then, looking at Dongli Chi Huang, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and said, "This is my third senior brother. He is a little straightforward. Please forgive him, Saint." Hearing this, the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix secretly glanced at Du Xiaofu. She smiled and said, "Brave God King, you are too polite." Seeing that the tense atmosphere between Dongli Chi Huang and Du Xiaofu had dissolved, Cheng Shengnan and the old Lord Cheng Fanshi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. On the battlefield below, the massacre lasted from dawn to dusk. On the vast plains, countless corpses were piled up into small hills. Blood flowed like a river, dyeing the rivers and lakes inside and outside Enlightenment City blood red. The murderous aura accumulated in the sky for a long time, and the smell of blood permeated the air. There were countless casualties in this battle. The number of corpses that covered the sky was uncountable. The old Lord Emperor, Cheng Shengnan, Dongli Chi Huang, Du Xiaofu, Yu Wanli, and the others had already left the battlefield after the situation stabilized. They arrived at the Enlightenment City, where the higher-ups of the Stone Dragon Empire's army discussed the situation. The vast courtyard was enough for many people to rest in peace. At dusk, the setting sun in Enlightenment City was as red as blood, accompanied by the smell of blood. "Little junior brother, if we were to fight today, we would be at a disadvantage. They have more people than us. Why don't we inform Master to come over and ruthlessly trample on those bastards from the Great Luan sect?" Yu Wanli said to Du Xiaofu as he walked through the courtyards, pavilions, and corridors. The setting sun was like blood. Today, Yu Wanli knew that if he really fought with the Great Wheel sect, he would be at a disadvantage. After all, there were 4 of them. Du Xiaofu looked at Yu Wanli and smiled bitterly. He said helplessly, "No need, third senior brother. The Great Luan sect has nothing to do with us. Let's mind our own business. We don't want the Munchu to get involved." Chapter 748. At night, the air was filled with the smell of blood. Creak. The night was as cold as water. The door creaked as it was pushed open, and a beautiful figure appeared in the room. The pearls in the room shone brightly, illuminating her eyes. Her slender and graceful figure stood in an alluring arc, like a blooming freesia. Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, opened his eyes slightly and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He looked at the woman in front of him and smiled. He stood up and said, "It's so late. Why are you here?" "I just helped Senior Brother Chi Huang of the Great Wheel sect settle down. This time, it's all thanks to them that the Stone Dragon Empire is safe, so I didn't dare to neglect them." The first Princess Cheng Shengnan walked over to Du Xiaofu's side. She pouted her tender red lips and said softly, "So I neglected you. You won't be angry with me, right?" This time, I really have to thank them for their help. Du Xiaofu stood quietly beside the graceful figure. He looked at the familiar face that he often thought of and smiled helplessly. Then, he asked curiously, "Aren't you in the Divine Light Court? Why are you here with the chosen of the Great Wheel sect?" "It's a long story. I'll tell you next time." Cheng Shengnan's eyes secretly rippled without leaving a trace. Her red lips parted slightly as a faint smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. After that, she suddenly frowned slightly as she looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "How are you doing in the ancient heaven sect?" I've heard from the Munchu about you and the Divine Light Court in Fertile City. I'm doing well in the Ancient Heaven sect. Du Xiaofu smiled and nodded. As for what happened in Fertile City with the Divine Light Court, it was not strange that Cheng Shengnan knew about it. You shouldn't have killed Guyu. You're in big trouble. Cheng Shengnan looked at Du Xiaofu and said, although you're in the Ancient Heaven sect and the Divine Light Court can't do anything to you, Guyu's family has a very high status in the Divine Light Court. Once they have the chance, they won't let this matter go. The Divine Light Court won't let this matter rest either. Let's talk about it when the time comes. Du Xiaofu smiled. Since he had already killed Guyu, there was no need to say anything. The Divine Light Court. And sigh. Cheng Shengnan sighed helplessly. She waved her hand and grabbed Du Xiaofu's hand. She leaned on his familiar chest and said, "Why can't you stop worrying? If you hadn't entered the Ancient Heaven sect, you would have been in big trouble this time. Remember to be careful when you see people from the Divine Light Court in the future." Du Xiaofu smiled and squeezed her jade-like hand. It was as smooth as jade and slender as mutton fat. You're also from the Divine Light Court. Does seeing you count? Don't talk nonsense. Cheng Shengnan straightened her body and moved her hair. A faint fragrance wafted from her body. The corners of her mouth curved into a beautiful smile. Tell me honestly, did you miss me? I heard that there are many beauties in the Ancient Heaven sect. I missed you. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. Looking at the woman in front of him, some ripples appeared in his heart. Hearing this, a bright smile blossomed on Cheng Shengnan's moving face. She quickly raised her head and tiptoed slightly. Her delicate red lips lightly touched the red lips of that resolute face as she said, "I have something to tell you." Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in front of him and said, "What is it?" This time, we defeated the Tianhu Empire and the other two empires. Naturally, we should celebrate. This time, it was all thanks to senior brother Qi Huang of the Great Luan sect. Therefore, grandfather, father, and I all plan to invite senior brother Qi Huang to the imperial capital to participate in the celebration. Cheng Shengnan looked at Du Xiaofu and raised her head slightly. You and senior brother Qi Huang seem to have some conflicts. I'm afraid that there will be some unhappiness between the two of you. So, even if it's for me, please bear with it. Okay, I understand. Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in front of him and smiled faintly. Thank you. I know it will be hard on you, but for the Empire, please bear with it. Senior brother Qi Huang is actually very easy to get along with. You will know in the future. Perhaps in the future, he will have the opportunity to resolve the matter between you and the Divine Light Court. Seeing Du Xiaofu nod, Princess Cheng Shengnan smiled. She knew the temper of the purple-robed young man in front of her. There were definitely not many people who could make him tolerate. However, the Great Luan sect was definitely a huge monster to the Stone Dragon Empire. Don't worry about me. As for the matters of the Divine Light Court, you don't have to interfere. Du Xiaofu nodded and did not care too much. However, the matters of the Divine Light Court were not decided by the Divine Light Court. There were some debts that he would have to settle sooner or later. Princess Cheng Shengnan nodded and said, "It's getting late. I'll go back first. I have to return to the imperial capital tomorrow morning. You should rest early." Okay. Du Xiaofu nodded and watched the graceful figure in front of him slowly leave. Then, he stood quietly in the room for a while, and finally continued to sit cross-legged on the bed. After a while, Du Xiaofu's body was surrounded by a faint golden light, and waves of domineering aura slowly rippled out. The next morning, the morning clouds came out of the mountains, and milky white clouds floated above Enlightenment City. Under the faintly discernible clouds in mid-air, there was a bloody, evil aura that did not dissipate for a long time. In mid-air above Enlightenment City, 4 terrifying 3-headed golden lions pulled the Phoenix chariot. Their aura was so terrifying that it made the 10,000 people in the city tremble. Dongli Qi Huang stood in front of the golden lion Phoenix chariot. He was wearing a red robe and had golden hair. He looked mediocre, handsome, and peerless. The first princess, Cheng Shengnan, wore an orange-red outfit that accentuated her long and slender legs and slim waist, causing her already tall and slender figure to become even taller and slender. Her elegant temperament was a little cold, and she was extremely beautiful. Cheng Shengnan was becoming more and more breathtaking. The two of them stood in the air, and countless people below looked up at each other. Du Xiaofu looked at the charming woman. Since they parted in the dark forest last time, her aura had become much more vigorous and valiant. Inadvertently, that graceful and delicate body emitted a faintly discernible pressure that caused one's mind to fluctuate for no reason. Du Xiaofu narrowed his eyes. It was not difficult to know that Princess Cheng Shengnan must have obtained a great opportunity during this period of time, and her aura was extremely powerful. And in Dongli Qihuang's body, Du Xiaofu could faintly sense that there was an extremely terrifying aura dormant in Dongli Qihuang's body. That aura was very vigorous and powerful. The more he probed, the more undetectable it was. It was mysterious and unfathomable, and it made people feel reverence for no reason, not daring to look at it directly. That's Princess Cheng Shengnan. The young man next to her is very handsome. He's not an ordinary person. They seem to be a match made in heaven, just like a perfect couple. In Enlightenment City, countless people were discussing among themselves. Looking at Dongli Qihuang and Princess Cheng Shengnan standing together in the air, they were a perfect pair. Such discussions could not escape the ears of the experts in the air. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, Xie Fei, Eagle King, Gong Dao, Hua Fankong, and the others who were aware of the relationship between Du Xiaofu and Princess Cheng Shengnan had mixed feelings when they heard this. Third brother, you should participate in the national celebration this time. It's time to go. Du Yunlong had come to Du Xiaofu's side. After all these years of tempering, he had become more mature and fierce. His cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, and he was already a famous expert in the empire. The name of the eldest son of the Du family, Du Yunlong, was known throughout the Stone Dragon Empire. Second brother, tell them that I won't be going to the imperial capital to participate in the national celebration, said Du Xiaofu with a faint smile. What? Du Xiaoman, Eagle King, Gong Dao, Hua Fankong, and the others' faces changed. The Heavenly Beast Hall's contribution in this world gathering couldn't go unnoticed. In the end, Du Xiaofu came and led many experts to kill the experts of the three empires, turning the tide of the war. If Du Xiaofu didn't attend the national celebration, everyone would know and there wouldn't be a need for the national celebration. Ouyang Shuang stepped forward and glanced at Cheng Shengnan and Dongli Qihuang. She then said to Du Xiaofu, "Are you really not going? Maybe you should go." Xiaofu, we should go. Not far away, several figures appeared. A beautiful woman in a red dress spoke. It was Yuan Shanshan, followed by Ouyang Ling and North Vanquishing Prince. Mother, this guy isn't going to the imperial capital. Ouyang Shuang said to her mother. Xiaofu, why aren't you going? Yuan Shanshan asked Du Xiaofu doubtfully. Xiaofu, if you aren't going to the imperial capital, there's no need for the national celebration. Without you, we won't be able to win this time. North Vanquishing Prince stepped forward and spoke with dignity. Grandfather Xia, Aunt Shan, I just came back. I want to go back to Stone City to visit my family. I'm just an idle king of the Stone Dragon Empire. You can go. I have to go back to visit my family. Du Xiaofu smiled. He was telling the truth. The Courage King of the Stone Dragon Empire was just an idle king. In comparison, Du Xiaofu really wanted to go back to Stone City. On one hand, he wanted to visit his uncles and clansmen. On the other hand, he wanted to see if there was any news from his drunkard father. It seems like you're really not going. North Vanquishing Prince sighed. Mother, father, I also want to go to Stone City with Sister Xiaoman. Ouyang Shuang said to Yuan Shanshan and Ouyang Ling, all right. When you're at your Uncle Du's house, you have to be polite. Don't be naughty. Ouyang Ling nodded. Xiaofu, I heard you're not going to the imperial capital? A moment later, someone informed First Princess Cheng Shengnan. Her expression changed slightly, and she walked over. Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and Xie Fei stepped back when they saw First Princess Cheng Shengnan walking over. Flowers, today is Sunday. Please give me a free recommendation ticket to thank my brothers and sisters. Chapter 749. Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and Xie Fei stepped back when they saw Princess Cheng Shengnan. Looking at the woman, Du Xiaofu nodded and smiled. I just came back and want to go see my family in the Stone City. Is it because of me yesterday? Princess Chung Xingnan frowned and her eyes dimmed. No, I'm just an idle king. You should know me well. When we return, please send my regards to your father. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. All right, I'll go find you when I'm done. Princess Chung Xingnan said to Du Xiaofu apologetically. Brave God King, are you really not going to the imperial capital? A clear voice sounded. It was the south guarding Prince Ouyang Qi, the east guarding prince, and many other kings and marquises. When they heard that the brave God King wasn't going to the imperial capital, they all came to greet him. Yesterday, the brave God King came back to save the empire and led many powerful warriors. That scene was deeply imprinted in everyone's mind. During this period of time, the brave God King led the World Assembly and the Heavenly Beast Hall to fight for the empire. They killed countless enemies and shocked all the kings and marquises. Du Xiaofu said goodbye to the kings and marquises. These kings and marquises fought for the empire and were worthy of respect. Roar. After a while, some kings and marquises returned to the imperial capital. They were going back to celebrate. However, some kings and marquises stayed. Almost all the powerful warriors of the three empires were killed. They still had to recover the fallen cities and take the opportunity to wipe out the other three empires. They still needed powerful warriors. The Stone Dragon Empire's army knew that the Tianhu Empire and the other two empires were no longer a match for the Stone Dragon Empire. They didn't have much power left to resist the Stone Dragon Empire. To the Stone Dragon Empire, there wasn't much pressure to wipe out the other three empires. They just needed time. Looking at the Golden Lion Phoenix carriage in the air, Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. For some reason, he felt an indescribable sadness in his heart. It was an indescribable feeling. Is there good food and fun in the Stone City? Ouyang Shuang stood in front of Du Xiaofu. Her alluring body was tall and straight, and the faint fragrance on her body was pleasant. Her big and beautiful eyes stared at Du Xiaofu as she asked. Du Xiaofu came back to his senses and smiled. Of course, I'll make you some barbecue. Third brother, what about the World Assembly and the Heavenly Beast Hall? Du Yunlong asked Du Xiaofu. He didn't know if he should continue helping the Stone Dragon Empire reclaim their lost territory or return to the Dark Forest to recuperate. Du Xiaofu turned around and said to his second brother, Du Yunlong, all the demonic beasts and disciples of the World Society and Heavenly Beast Hall, return to the Dark Forest to rest and reorganize. This time, I brought back some resources and have already placed them in the chaotic demon city. Okay, Du Yunlong nodded. He didn't say anything else about this matter. He turned to Du Xiaofu and said, Third brother, it's good for you to go home. Uncle, my father, and the aunties in the clan are always talking about you. They're all waiting for you. Why don't you and big sister come with me? Du Xiaofu asked Du Yunlong. You and big sister can go back. The Dark Forest isn't far from the Stone City anyway, so I can go back often. There are many things to do in the World Alliance right now. I have to take the Heavenly Beast Hall and World Assembly's disciples back to rest. Du Yunlong said to Du Xiaofu with a smile. During this period of time, he had been involved in the affairs of the entire World Alliance, especially the affairs of the World Assembly. He had been personally involved. Du Xiaofu nodded. He was relieved to leave the World Alliance in the hands of his second brother. Du Yunlong was becoming more and more familiar with this task. Now, he was able to convince the entire World Alliance. Silver Condor, before I go back, you have to do me a favor. Du Xiaofu suddenly waved his hand and said to the silver-winged demonic condor. Palace Lord's orders. The silver-winged demonic condor nodded. He was wearing a white robe and his face was extraordinarily handsome. His lips curled up slightly, and his deep eyes were filled with dominance and devilish evilness. His noble aura was complicated. He was emitting a king's aura. Give me some of your blood and the blood of all the beasts in the Heavenly Beast Hall. I don't need too much, but not too little either, Du Xiaofu said to the silver-winged demonic condor. The silver-winged demonic condor froze and nodded. No problem. Give me 2 hours and I'll get it done. The silver-winged demonic condor left. Looking at the silver-winged demonic condor's back, Du Xiaofu said to his second brother, Du Yunlong, second brother, inform all the incense masters, hall masters, guardian elders, and Heavenly Beast Hall's commanders to wait for me in the side hall in 2 hours. I have something to say to everyone. Okay. Du Yunlong nodded. So secretive. Ouyang Shuang listened and glared at Du Xiaofu. You go too, Du Xiaofu said to Ouyang Shuang. That's more like it. Ouyang Shuang's beautiful eyes immediately flashed with a smug smile. 2 hours later, in a side hall not far from the room Du Xiaofu stayed in last night, World Association's elders, incense masters, hall masters, Heavenly Beast Hall's commanders, Silver Condor, Red Leopard, and Domineering Mastiff were all there. In addition, third senior brother Yuanli, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the others were also there. Silver Condor gave Du Xiaofu a jade bottle filled with demonic beast blood essence. There was a lot of it, which gave Du Xiaofu a shock. Then, Du Xiaofu took out a pile of Dao artifacts in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Du Xiaofu was right. They were all Dao artifacts. Du Xiaofu took out a lot of Dao artifacts and suspended them in the side hall. Multicolored light spread out and dazzled the eyes. The energy fluctuations made people's hearts jump. They were all low-grade Dao artifacts. Dao artifacts, these are all Dao artifacts. Oh my god, so many Dao artifacts. I'm scared to death. Guild Master, where did you strike it rich? You've struck it rich? Seeing this, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Eagle King, Gong Dao, Du Yunlong, Hua Fankong, Ba Ao, and the others were all shocked. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone and said, all incense masters, hall masters, elders, and commanders can choose a Dao artifact. Choose for yourselves. Choose for yourselves? Everyone was dumbfounded and confused. Their gazes immediately turned to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu nodded and said, everyone, choose one that suits you. If you want to be recognized by the Dao artifacts, it will depend on your luck. Thank you, President. Thank you, Hall Master. Hua Fankong, Chao Yu, and the others were overjoyed and thanked him. They sat down cross-legged and began to use their consciousness to communicate with the Dao artifacts. Only with the approval of the Dao artifacts could they successfully obtain the Dao artifacts. Seeing that Chao Yu and the others were already communicating with the Dao artifacts, Golden Condor King, Chan Yu Xiu, Flame Carp King, and the others were envious. Du Xiaofu looked at Chan Yu Xiu and the others and said, you guys can participate too. Thank you, third young master. Hearing this, Chan Yu Xiu, Golden Condor King, and the others thanked him excitedly. Then, they quickly sat down cross-legged and began to communicate with the Dao artifacts. Eagle King, Big Sister, Second Brother, Song Bao, Ba Ao, Golden Condor King, Extinction Sword King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Mysterious Dragon King, try to communicate with them. Just as Golden Condor King, Song Bao, Extinction Sword King, Ba Ao, and the others were about to try to communicate with the Dao artifacts, Du Xiaofu stopped them. Then, he waved his hand and more than 10 Dao artifacts flew out from Du Xiaofu's hand. Multicolored light shot out and energy fluctuations were endless. These were also Dao artifacts. There were a total of 14 of them. However, the aura of each of these Dao artifacts was extremely terrifying. Compared to the Dao artifacts that Du Xiaofu had taken out earlier, they were obviously on a much higher level. These were all middle-grade Dao artifacts. Du Xiaofu had only obtained 5 middle-grade Dao artifacts from the deal between the Ancient Heaven Sect and the sect leader's senior brother, Sima Taxing. As for the remaining 9 middle-grade Dao artifacts, no one knew that Du Xiaofu had plundered them from various places and had been hiding them on his body. Oh my god, he's going to be rich. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had taken out another middle-grade Dao artifact, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Eagle King, Gong Blade, Extinction Sword King, Mysterious Dragon King, and the others gasped. Then, they were overjoyed. Then, they could no longer remain calm and began to sit down cross-legged without hesitation. They wanted to communicate with the middle-grade Dao artifacts that they wanted. Even Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and Eagle King's Gong Blade were no exception. They were not polite at all. However, Du Yunlong had no intention of making a move. He said to Du Xiaofu, third brother, I have 1,000 kills. It's also very handy, so I don't need it. I'll leave it for those who need it to strengthen the forces of the World Society and the World Alliance. Okay, Du Xiaofu nodded. Then, he looked at Silver Condor, who was the last person besides second brother and third senior brother Yuanli. He asked, Silver Condor, don't you need a Dao artifact? As a monster beast, it could still possess a spirit artifact or Dao artifact. It was rumored that in this world, there was a top monster beast with a top divine weapon. It stepped into the world and was unstoppable. The power of a middle-grade Dao artifact is amazing. The silver-winged demonic condor looked at the Dao artifacts floating in the entire side hall with a hint of passion in his eyes. But then, he shook his head helplessly and said, although Dao artifacts are good, I've seen them. There's really nothing suitable for me. You're really picky. How about this? If you have the opportunity, I'll give it to you. Chapter 750. As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he threw out an item in his hand. Boom! As Du Xiaofu threw out the item in his hand, a golden light flashed, and a mighty and overbearing aura swept out, shaking the surrounding space. A golden fan appeared in the hall, golden light shooting out in all directions, and a terrifying aura swept out. There were golden talisman runes flashing, as if there was a golden-winged rock shadow flapping its wings, rising up into the sky and surging with power. Such a domineering and terrifying power caused the surrounding Dao artifacts to tremble violently and prostrate. The silver-winged demonic condor's eyes trembled. Within the golden light, there was a golden arc fan with layers of golden feathers, looking fierce and overbearing. It was wrapped in talisman runes, like the golden wings of a rock. The silver-winged demonic condor could feel the aura spreading out from the golden fan. It was the aura of an absolutely overbearing golden-winged rock. If you have the opportunity, I'll leave this item to you. Du Xiaofu smiled. The heaven-shaking fan was a peak high-grade Dao artifact, a treasure among treasures. However, he already had the tyrant shadow and the real rock golden wings, so although the heaven-shaking fan was a treasure with terrifying power, it seemed a little redundant. The silver-winged demonic condor's body had also received the benefits of the golden-winged rock blood. Du Xiaofu felt that if the silver-winged demonic condor could obtain the heaven-shaking fan, in addition to the silver-winged demonic condor's strong body, he would be able to fight head-on even if he encountered a real martial royal realm beginner. Thank you, Palace Master. The silver-winged demonic condor's gaze was fixed on the heaven-shaking fan wrapped in golden light, and his eyes were filled with shock. He then sat down cross-legged and began to communicate. Yuanli's eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at everything in the side hall. On the way back with his third junior brother, he increasingly felt that he did not know enough about this junior brother in front of him in the past. An hour later, the space in the side hall fluctuated, and a sharp claw Dao artifact with a cold sharpness fluctuated, revealing a sharp aura. In the next instant, Eagle King Gong Dao's figure flashed out and grabbed the claw Dao artifact with one hand. Almost at the same time, the mysterious Flood Dragon King stood up. A battle spear appeared in his hands. It shone brilliantly and symbols fluctuated. Buzz. Then, the solitary Sword King, Ouyang Shuang, and Du Xiaoman flew out one after another and held the 3 Dao artifact longswords in their hands. Boom. Space trembled as the Stone Turtle King stood up and took action. A Dao artifact that looked like a hammer shone brightly. Symbols fluctuated as it landed in his palm. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Then, in this side hall, there was a series of energy fluctuations. Chanyu Xiu, Chaoyu, Flame Carp King, Ba Ao, Songbao, and the others all received their Dao treasures one after another. Everyone was pleasantly surprised as they thanked Du Xiaofu one after another. Their gazes were filled with reverence and respect. Everyone clearly knew what they had obtained. Hey, Silver Condor seems to have succeeded too. Finally, in this side hall, the Fuyao heaven-shaking wings radiated light and emitted energy fluctuations. Golden talisman patterns flickered, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Silver Condor stood up and stretched out his hand to grasp the Fuyao heaven-shaking fan in his hand. He had obtained the Fuyao heaven-shaking fan's approval. As long as he was the final owner, he would be able to obtain the Fuyao heaven-shaking wings. Thank you, Temple Master. Silver Condor bowed respectfully, his eyes trembling. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. Then, a lot of medicinal pills and martial technique resources appeared in his hand. He distributed them to everyone one by one. Of course, there were also Xinyuan pills and berserk pills. We're rich. We're going to be rich. We're going to be rich. Thank you, Guild Master. Thank you, Temple Master. Everyone was boiling with excitement. Roar. At dusk, in Enlightenment City, a huge Xinyun scarlet flood dragon soared into the sky. Two figures sat upright on the Xinyun scarlet flood dragon and instantly disappeared into the sunset. Stone City, this ancient border town, was still like a paradise. Although Stone City was not isolated from the world, it was a border town deep in the Savage Beast Mountain range, so not many people paid attention to it. A while ago, the only thing that caught everyone's attention was that Du Xiaofu, the brave God King, came from this border town. Stone City had returned to peace after the incident in the Drifting Cloud County. Of course, this peace could not conceal the martial spirit of Stone City. The brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire, the overlord of the Dark Forest, and the leader of the World Alliance, Du Xiaofu, came from Stone City. This made the martial spirit of Stone City even stronger. At dawn and dusk, topless children could be seen practicing martial arts everywhere in Stone City. Each of the toddlers looked strong, and their loud and clear voices added to Stone City's elegance. Roar. The next morning, Stone City was peaceful. The voices of the toddlers practicing martial arts echoed. Suddenly, a deep roar came from the distant sky. Within the morning clouds, a giant green and red flood dragon soared into the sky. There were a dozen figures on it. Naturally, it was Du Xiaofu, Yu Wanli, Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, and the others. This time, Du Xiaofu also brought the Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, and the others with him. However, he let the Eagle King, Gong Dao, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, Subduing Tiger Mastiff, and Blue Flame Scarlet Leopard return to the Dark Forest. Now, Yao Lao was in seclusion in Chaos Demon City. There were no experts. Du Xiaofu was not at ease. Chaos Demon City needed experts to hold the fort. Du Xiaofu stood quietly on the mysterious Flood Dragon King's main body, the Xinyun Scarlet Dragon. His purple robe fluttered in the wind. He was nervous and excited. He had not returned for a long time. No matter where he was, to Du Xiaofu, Stone City's Du family would always be his roots. We'll be there soon. The clansmen will be very happy to see you return. Du Xiaoman said to Du Xiaofu. They had just come out of the ancient desolate space. In the ancient desolate space, they, the Golden Condor King, Chan Yuxiu, and the Stone Turtle King had all refined the Dao treasures they had obtained. They had gained many benefits. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. At this moment, he was nervous and excited. Perhaps this was the so-called homesickness. Although he had been outside for the past few years, Du Xiaofu was able to vividly recall the days when he sat under the stone tablet when he was young once he reached the Stone City. However, the stone tablet no longer existed. There was no trace of the mysterious first and second moves. It could only be found by chance. Third young master, did you come from this place? The Golden Condor King asked Du Xiaofu curiously. A small border city could actually produce such a terrifying master. Du Xiaofu smiled and nodded. Stone City was already under his feet. The familiar streets were right below him. Roar! The flood dragon roared. The residents of Stone City rushed to the streets and looked at the huge flood dragon that suddenly appeared in the sky. They trembled in fear. The residents of Stone City had never seen such a huge flood dragon before. They were worried and trembling. Look, there are people on it. They're riding on a flood dragon. How majestic! A few young children and youths were astonished as they stared at the back of the enormous flood dragon. They were extremely envious, and a trace of that image was engraved in their little hearts. When they grew up, they would definitely be as awe-inspiring and magnificent. How valiant would it be to stand on a flood dragon and soar through the sky? Residents of Stone City, don't be nervous. The Du clan has returned. Du Xiaoman's voice echoed in Stone City. She did not want the Scarlet Cloud Flood Dragon to scare the residents. Du clan, that's the eldest daughter of the Du clan. That's the Vice City Lord. I see it. The Vice City Lord is back. I see it too. The Vice City Lord is back. Our Vice City Lord is the brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire. He's the leader of the World Alliance. Greetings, Vice City Lord. Suddenly, there was a wave of voices that resounded in Stone City. All the residents of Stone City were excited. The Vice City Lord had returned to Stone City. He was riding on a flood dragon. How domineering. He was a peerless figure from Stone City. All the residents of Stone City were deeply proud of him. After a while, the Scarlet Cloud Flood Dragon circled outside the Du clan. Du Xiaofu and the others landed one after another. Although the powerful auras had been retracted, they still caused the world to seem to have solidified. Du Xiaofu looked at the familiar gate of the Du clan. He felt at ease. The sadness he felt when he said goodbye to the eldest princess, Cheng Xingnan, disappeared. Whoosh whoosh, many figures rushed out from the gate of the Du clan and immediately appeared in front of Du Xiaofu and the others. Brother Xiaofu, Sister Xiaoman, you're back. Brother Xiaofu, Sister Xiaoman. One by one, the younger generation of the Du clan rushed out and looked at Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaoman in front of them. They were all very happy. Your cultivation is much stronger. Your talents are not bad. Du Xiaofu looked at the crowd. Among them were Du Liang, Du Gue, Du Chong, Du Hao, Du Yu, Du Shui, and the others. Their auras were much stronger than before. Xiaofu Xiaoman, you're back. Many people rushed out from the Du clan. They were Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiang, and many elders of the Du clan. Haha, Xiaofu is back. Du Zhixiang shouted loudly. He immediately walked to Du Xiaofu's side and gently patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. His eyes were filled with joy. Greetings, second uncle, eldest uncle. Du Xiaofu bowed. Looking at second uncle, eldest uncle, and the other clan members in front of him, warmth flowed in his heart. Today's update has ended. Xiaoyu will continue to update tomorrow. Please support me with flowers and free recommendation tickets. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Chapter 751. Greetings, Master. Greetings, Second Master. The Absolute Sword King, Golden Condor King, Chan Yuxiu, and the others bowed to Du Zhixiang and Du Zhenwu. The formless energy rippled, causing the black tortoise in Du Zhixiang and Du Zhenwu's body to stop. After a while, in the Du family, some of the young fellows in the Du family were now 15 or 16 years old. They were all full of admiration for Du Xiaofu and were not timid. They surrounded Du Xiaofu, wanting to teach him a thing or two. Little brats, let your third brother rest first. Don't bother him. Let your third brother teach you well tomorrow. Du Zhixiang scolded and chased the group of young men and women away. Xiaofu, where's the eldest princess? Why didn't she come back with you? A woman, who was Du Xiaofu's aunt, pulled Du Xiaofu to the side secretly and looked at Ouyang Shuang, who was not far away. She asked, "What's your relationship with this beautiful girl? Is she your wife? She's really pretty. Not bad." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and shook his head. That girl was a tomboy. She was not familiar with the Du family now. Once she was familiar with them, the Du family's aunts would have a hard time. Xiaofu, your eldest sister and second brother are not married yet. Why don't you get married first? Do you still remember Yi Xiaoxi from the Yi family? He's the same age as you. His child is already 1 year old. Another woman came to Du Xiaofu's side and whispered. Du Xiaofu really did remember Yi Xiaoxi from the Yi family. Although he did not leave the Du family much, he still had an impression of Yi Xiaoxi. Du Xiaofu still remembered fighting with Yi Xiaoxi when he was young. He lost. In the end, his eldest sister went over and taught Yi Xiaoxi a lesson. Yi Xiaoxi was beaten until he cried and went back to complain. He did not expect that guy to be married and have a child now. This really surprised Du Xiaofu. Xiaofu, tonight, we'll make your favorite dishes when you were young. Many women pushed the group of old and young men aside and surrounded Du Xiaofu in the middle. Their saliva flew as they spoke. They did not know what to say. These aunties were talking about trivial matters and trivial matters. But at this moment, when Du Xiaofu heard it, it was unusually comfortable. This was a kind of simple and honest feeling. You bunch of old women, stop surrounding Xiaofu. He just came back and needs to rest. Several elders and burly men stepped forward with excitement in their eyes. Go, go. Let's talk to Xiaofu first. This child isn't young anymore. It's time for him to get married. Last time, someone from the Bai clan came to propose marriage. The group of women pushed aside the old men and the burly men. Xiao Ants, Qiu Du, and Du's Du, the Du family residence was very lively. Everyone was happy. Wherever Du Xiaofu went, many young men and women surrounded him, their eyes filled with respect and worship. 4 hours later, Du Xiaofu set up a seal in the main hall of the Du family residence. In the main hall, only Du Zhixiang, Du Zhenwu, the great elder, the other elders, and the Du family elders were present. Du Xiaofu placed a large pile of Dao tools, talisman tools, spirit tools, elixirs, martial skills, and other cultivation resources in the main hall. Suddenly, a dazzling light spread out and energy fluctuations rippled, causing the entire hall to freeze. Those should be talisman tools. So many spirit tools, so many elixirs. Are those marquis-grade elixirs? Marquis-grade martial skills. All the old men of the Du family trembled as their gazes suddenly landed on the piles of cultivation resources that had caused the profound energy in their bodies to solidify. First uncle, second uncle, elders, there are some Dao tools, king-grade elixirs, and king-grade martial skills here. Keep them as the family treasures of our Du family. As for the rest of the elixirs, martial skills, spirit tools, and talisman tools, give them to the outstanding people in the family. Du Xiaofu said to the Du family elders, first uncle and second uncle, Dao tools, king-grade elixirs. Hearing this, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiang, and the Du family elders in the main hall were stunned for a long time. Their bodies trembled, and they could not help but stand up. All the elders were extremely excited. Their eyes were filled with tears of joy, and their bodies could not stop trembling. Our Du family is going to prosper. How fortunate! The great elder said in a trembling voice, his body trembling. To be able to see such a scene in my lifetime, I can die with no regrets. I can finally meet the ancestors of the Du family with my dignity. A white-haired, old man said. His eyes were red, and he was very excited. Good, good, good. Our Du family has produced a peerless son. The Du family is lucky. A Du family elder trembled with excitement. His eyes were cloudy, and he almost shed tears, but he raised his hand to wipe them away. Great elder, be careful. Du Xiaofu supported the old man. This was one of the great elders of the Du family. When he was young, he gave him candy to eat. My good child, I'm fine. I can live for a few more years. I'm just too happy. The old man held Du Xiaofu's hand with an excited smile. Then he said to Du Xiaofu, go and prepare. We're going to pay respects to the ancestors of the Du family in the ancestral hall. Yes, let's pay respects to the ancestors first. Thank the ancestors of the Du family for protecting our Du family. They have protected our Du family from being invaded by evil spirits. The great elder nodded and said. He turned to Du Zhenwu and said, Patriarch, what do you think? Pay respects to the ancestors in the ancestral hall. Du Zhenwu nodded. His eyes were red, and he was excited. Elders, first uncle, second uncle, let's go to the ancestral hall tomorrow to pay respects to the ancestors. Let all the children of the Du clan go together. This time, I brought back quite a lot of Beast Lord Realm and Beast King Realm demonic beast blood essence, as well as the blood essence of demonic beasts ranked on the heavenly beast list. Du Xiaofu said to everyone. Seeing the elders of the Du family so happy, he was also happy in his heart. This was his family, his loved ones. What Du Xiaofu wanted was for his family to be happy and healthy. That was all. Beast Lord Realm Demonic Beasts Blood Essence. Beast King Realm Demonic Beasts Blood Essence. Heavens, there's also the blood essence of demonic beasts ranked on the heavenly beast list. Is that true? All the elders trembled with excitement. A few years ago, in order to obtain the blood essence of the violent stone demonic wolf, the Du family had to use the entire clan's power to baptize a junior's foundation. And now, Du Xiaofu brought back the blood essence of Beast Lord Realm Demonic Beasts, Beast King Realm Demonic Beasts, in the legendary blood essence of demonic beasts ranked on the heavenly beast list. If these blood essences were used to baptize the foundation of the Du family's children, their future achievements would be immeasurable. Haha, lucky, this is my Du family's lucky day. The elders of the Du family were so excited that they were crying tears of joy. The entire Du family was bustling with noise and excitement. All the children of the Du family were informed that they would worship their ancestors tomorrow. Therefore, the children of the Du family who were of suitable age would have their foundation establishment baptisms tomorrow. It was said that third brother Du Xiaofu had brought back quite a bit of blood essence from powerful demonic beasts. If he could successfully reach the foundation establishment stage, his future would be limitless. Moments later, outside the Du residence, the Yi family's patriarch, Stone City's castellan Yi Baolin, by family's patriarch, 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 and many other elders came to visit. They received news that Du Xiaofu had returned to Stone City, so they immediately came to the Du family. When Du Xiaofu heard about this, even though he didn't go to the main gate to welcome them, he went to the main hall to welcome them. After all, City Lord Yi Baolin and the Bai family's patriarch Bai Jiru were all elders of the Stone City. Don't disrespect your elders. This was the teachings of the elders of the Du family since they were young. The Du family's children had to engrave this in their hearts. Du Xiaofu had always kept this in mind. Inside the main hall, the elders of the Du family, Du Zhenwu, and Du Zhixiang were sitting with them. The main hall was sealed by a restriction, so no one knew what they were talking about. After an hour, the people of the Yi and Bai families left the main hall. Each of them was so excited that their faces were trembling. Some of the elders of the Yi and Bai families were so excited that their eyes were moist. They trembled as they walked, as if they were unable to calm down for a long time. Only they knew that this time, the Bai and Yi families had each obtained a Dao artifact and a lot of medicinal pills and cultivation resources. These were all precious treasures. The Yi and Bai families had also obtained 5 spots to baptize the demonic beasts ranked on the heavenly beast list. How could the elders not tremble and cry tears of joy? In the afternoon, the entire Stone City was in an uproar because the Du family had spread the news. As long as they were residents of the Stone City, they could come to the Du family to have their talent tested. If they had enough talent, they could receive free training from the Du family. If they were suitable, they could even get a free baptism to establish their foundation. All of this was free. The Du family would provide it unconditionally as long as they were residents of the Stone City. The Du family's commanders and guards ran through the streets and alleys of the Stone City to spread the news. In an instant, the entire Stone City was in an uproar. No one doubted the Du family's words. In a split second, everyone rushed to the Du family. The Du family was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Countless young men and women were waiting excitedly. Some strong-looking children blinked their bright eyes as they waited for their talent to be tested. They seemed to understand but not understand. Some were nervous, some were expectant. At dusk, the red clouds covered the sky. In a pavilion of the Du family, several figures stood quietly, looking at the sea of people outside the Du family's residence. Xiaofu, there are too many people. Did you bring enough demonic beast blood essence? Du Zhixiang looked nervously at Du Xiaofu, who was standing at the front. Second uncle, don't worry. The demonic beast blood essence is enough. Du Xiaofu said to his second uncle, Du Zhixiang. There are so many people. How much demonic beast blood essence is needed? These are all precious treasures. You are too generous. Du Zhixiang glanced at the dense crowd outside the Du family's residence. His heart ached. Giving all the qualified people a free baptism to establish their foundation. This was definitely a big deal. Second brother, Xiaofu did the right thing. Our Stone City is a small city on the border. The mountains are high and the emperor is far away. We are short on resources. Although everyone respects martial arts, we have never produced any extraordinary people. Now that Xiaofu has the ability, he should unite the entire Stone City and do something for the Stone City. In the future, our Du family will definitely be fortunate and be loved by the Stone City. Du Zhenwu said to Du Zhixiang. His eyes rippled with brilliance as he sighed emotionally in his heart. Chapter 752. Outside the Du family, Many young men and women of the right age were tested for their talents. The Yi and Bai families had also sent out many people to help. Many young men and women were tested to have decent talents. They were able to obtain the blood essence of demonic beasts to build their foundations. If they were suitable, they could even obtain other cultivation resources. After dusk, Du Xiaofu entered the ancient, desolate space to refine all the demonic beasts' blood into pure blood essence. He had Zhang Qingquan's help. Kid, you have to be careful of the reincarnated holy son of the Great Luan sect that day. He is not ordinary, Zhen Qingquan said to Du Xiaofu. During this period of time, Zhen Qingquan was not in the ancient desolate space. Therefore, he could clearly hear what was happening in the outside world through the small pagoda. Brother Qingquan, you also know about the reincarnated holy son of the Great Luan sect? Du Xiaofu asked. His hand seals changed and the five-colored spiritual stove symbol cauldron in front of him disappeared. His face was slightly pale. Refining all the blood essence of the demonic beasts into blood essence was a rather vast project. Fortunately, it was not complicated for Du Xiaofu. Other than refining the blood essence of the mysterious Dragon King, Silver-winged demonic condor, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Tyrannical Mastiff, Azure Leopard, and Ice Python King. The rest was simple. It just needed time. Zhen Qingquan's illusory soul moved slightly and glanced at Du Xiaofu. Then, he said to Du Xiaofu, "What reincarnated holy son? Actually, it is just a secret technique of the Great Luan sect. It is a technique that makes ordinary people respect it. However, that secret technique is really abnormal and powerful. It makes people afraid." After he said that, Zhang Qingquan's expression turned serious. Du Xiaofu could tell from Zhang Qingquan's expression that the secret technique of the Great Luan sect was definitely not ordinary. He asked curiously, "What kind of secret technique is the Great Luan sect?" Zhen Qingquan straightened his spirit and said to Du Xiaofu, "That is a kind of reincarnation secret technique. When the top experts of the Great Luan sect reach the end of their lifespan or die, they will reincarnate with a wisp of their primordial spirit. At that time, the people of the Great Luan sect will search everywhere for the reincarnated holy child. In order to ensure the success of the reincarnation, the Great Luan sect's child and reincarnated holy child, reincarnated child, the reincarnated holy son of the holy. At a certain time, the reincarnated holy sons, reincarnated holy son, reincarnated saint reincarnated. Of the reincarnation sect, reincarnated holy of reincarnated Dilu Yuns is S2. This secret technique is really terrifying. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he was shocked. The Great Luan sect actually had such a terrifying secret technique. The world was indeed big and filled with all sorts of mysteries. For Dongli Qihuang to become a holy son, he has to kill all the reincarnated holy children and take their souls to fuse with them. His methods are extremely cruel. Therefore, that guy is definitely not someone to be trifled with. You have to be careful. Zhang Qingquan reminded Du Xiaofu that the holy son of the Great Luan sect was definitely not a trifled with. Du Xiaofu did not pay much attention to Dongli Qihuang. He frowned and asked Zhen Qingquan, "Brother Qingquan, in that case, shouldn't the Great Luan sect have many reincarnators? When their experts die, they can reincarnate." That's not the case. It is said that the secret technique is extremely difficult to cultivate. Only those who have cultivated the secret technique can do it. Ordinary people can't even dream of cultivating such a secret technique. Zhen Qingquan said to Du Xiaofu, "In order to reincarnate an expert, the Great Luan sect has to pay a huge price. In addition, in order to maintain the orthodoxy of the Great Luan sect, there will only be one reincarnated holy son for a period of time." The next morning, at the Du family's ancestral hall, all the Du family members were in high spirits as they gathered at the ancestral hall. With Du Xiaofu and the head of the family, Du Jinwu, and all the elders of the Du family, the ancestral worship began. All the family members bowed respectfully. Du Xiaofu also bowed at the ancestral hall. Looking at the floating stone coffin in the ancestral hall, he thought of how he often climbed out of the stone coffin. At this moment, he thought of his alcoholic father. He did not know where his alcoholic father was and if he was well. After the ancestral worship, All the young boys of the Du family, the Bai family, the Yi family, and the entire Stone City began to baptize their foundation with the blood essence of demonic beasts on the Du family's drill ground. Large vats had already been placed on the drill ground of the Du family. The vats contained the blood essence of demonic beasts mixed with hot water. The vats shined brightly and rippled with energy. Roar. The roars of demonic beasts could be heard from the huge vat, roaring and hissing. These were not ordinary blood essences of demonic beasts. To the entire Stone City, they were all precious treasures. All the young boys were thrown into the vats by the men of the three families according to their physique and talent. They began to baptize their foundation. Of course, for the young girls of the right age, they were arranged to be baptized in a room. There were women and elders of the three families who were in charge. Ah, it hurts. Oh my God. It hurts so much. Mom, save me. One by one, the young boys were thrown into the vats. Under the stimulation of the blood essence of demonic beasts, they cried like ghosts and gods, crying for their parents. But this scene fell into the eyes of the old men and the men. They did not care. Instead, their faces were filled with joy. Then, they mercilessly slapped the little guys who were trying to climb out of the vats back down. All of you better behave. You don't know how lucky you are. In the future, you little guys will know the benefits. The men from the three great clans shouted and roared loudly. They wanted this kind of treatment, but they were already past the appropriate age. If they had this kind of opportunity in the past, then they would not only have this kind of result. God bless the Stone City. Thank you, Vice City Lord. The Yi family, the Bai family, and some of the old men of the Stone City sighed emotionally and thanked the Du family. On the drill ground, the energy fluctuations were like the sun filling the sky. All the old men were shocked, and the entire Stone City was boiling. At this moment, Du Xiaofu arrived at the back mountain of the Du family. At the place where he often secretly roasted fish and meat with Fui Bai, Du Xiaofu set up a stove, hunted some prey, and started roasting the meat. Sizzle. The aroma of the roasted meat filled the air as it sizzled with oil. The aroma assailed their noses, making them drool. Yu Wanli, Ouyang Shuang, Extinction Sword King, Golden Condor King, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Chanyu Xiu, and Zhuang Pingyang surrounded the roasted meat. When the roasted meat was finally out of the oven, these experts no longer looked like experts. They ate heartily and salivated. I wonder how Fui Bai is doing. As Du Xiaofu ate the roasted meat, he couldn't help but think of Fui Bai. In the back mountain, there were too many memories with Fui Bai. Ouyang Shuang stood behind Du Xiaofu. Her graceful figure looked cold. Her big eyes glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "What are your plans next?" Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and looked back at the girl in front of him. He said, "I should be returning to the ancient heaven sect in a few days." Ouyang Shuang's eyes moved slightly as she stood beside Du Xiaofu. After a while, her red lips opened slightly and said, "How is life in the ancient heaven sect? Are you used to it?" "Not bad." Du Xiaofu nodded. "That's good." Ouyang Shuang ate the roasted meat and didn't say anything else. In the next few days, the drill ground of the Du family was very lively. Du Yu, Du Shui, Du Gue, Du Hao, Du Chong, and Du Liang were the new generation. They had cultivated diligently under the personal guidance of the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Mysterious Dragon King, Flame Carp King, and Chanyu Xiu. When the elders of the Du family, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiang, and the others learned that the Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Exceptional Sword King, and the others were all Martial King realm experts and 6-star spiritual talisman masters, they were stunned for a long time. Oh my God. An elder of the Du family was so excited that he couldn't sleep at night when he thought that there were more than a dozen Martial King realm experts in the Du family. Such a lineup was enough to wipe out an empire. A teacher for a day, a teacher for life. Pay your respects. 3 days later, in the main hall of the Du family, Yu Wanli, Mysterious Flood Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Exceptional Sword King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Ice Python King, Chanyu Xiu, and the others were sitting in the main hall of the Du family. In front of Yu Wanli and the others were Du Yu, Du Shui, Du Hao, Du Gue, Du Chong, Du Ming, and Du Liang, the new generation of the Du family. Greetings, Master. Du Yu, Du Shui, Du Hao, and the others kowtowed respectfully. Under their pleas, they succeeded in becoming disciples. The mysterious Flood Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Exceptional Sword King, and the others wanted to take them as disciples. Du Xiaofu didn't object, so Du Hao and the others successfully became disciples. What was worth mentioning was that Du Yu and Du Shui both became Yuanli's disciples at the same time, becoming Yuanli's two head disciples. With Yuanli's identity and status in the ancient heaven sect, Du Yu and Du Shui were equivalent to directly becoming inner sect disciples of the ancient heaven sect. If this was in the entire middle continent, it would be a great opportunity. However, at this time, Du Yu and Du Shui, these two little guys, still didn't know what the ancient heaven sect was. These two little guys were still young and inexperienced. They only knew that their master wasn't an ordinary expert, and he was also Brother Xiaofu's third senior brother. Xiaoyu, please continue to write. Looking for all the support from the flowers, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone.